This week on the PSPremiere Podcast, Dory makes a weird noise. Oh! Dory holds up a carrot.
Look how big this carrot is.
And Mitch tells us about his new side gig.
Oh, I've got to stop, Scarecrow from flooding the whole city with fear toxin.
Hello and welcome to the 40th episode of the PSPremiere Podcast. I'm your host, James Smith, and today I'm joined by Dorian Ford.
Hello, it's me, Dory. I go by she, her. And you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at dclaire192. If you hear dogs in the background, it's not me. Obviously, it's Seb, because I don't live with dogs, as we all know.
Sebastian Cardone.
Hey, I'm Sebastian. You can follow me at LittleSeb93.
Mitchell O'Brien.
Hi, my name on Twitter is Mitchub1012, and if you can't tell, I am under a blanket right now because it is 8 degrees here and fucking freezing.
And Alex, you've got some nerve coming on here after what you did.
Yeah, I mean, it took 40 episodes, but I think I finally weaseled my way on here, huh?
It's Alex Brinegar, everybody.
Yay, hi, everybody. I am Alex. You can follow me on Twitter at Clobberin' Time, spelled like the herb, Thyme.
And you are, of course, a graphic design extraordinaire. And you made our logos. And if you're watching the video version of this, the overlay that we have here and everything like that.
Yeah, it was really fun to work on. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm glad all of you like it as well. And it's one of those designs that I had a lot of fun working on, and I'm really mad that I can't use it for my own things now.
Well, I was going to ask, because you've worked on a lot of logos and stuff for sort of channels that we're associated with through MinMax and that kind of thing. Do you have a favorite of those?
Oh, I can't pick. They're all my favorite children at the end of the day. And, my favorite is whichever podcast I am currently on.
Great. That's what I like to hear.
Good answer.
Right, so we'll just kick things off then let's see. Dory, what have you been playing?
Yeah. I have been playing a few things, most of which we're going to talk about in the impressions section. But I will briefly say I've been playing a little bit more Ratchet Clank 2016. I'm getting close to the end. The weapons are getting really ridiculous at this point, which I love. I've got this new weapon that has like a spinning buzzsaw or blade saw or whatever you want to call it.
The Buzzblades.
Yes, the Buzzblade. I haven't gotten to use them quite yet, but they look really cool. I also got a sniper rifle and a big rocket launcher. It's always very satisfying to get gears and nuts and bolts or whatever in that game, whatever you want to call those. And then just spend it all on like a big, huge gun, get the heck out gun. I've still really been enjoying the game. I really don't have too many complaints. The only thing I can think of is some of the trespasser puzzles towards the end of the game are a real pain in the ass. And I don't really I'm starting to not really enjoy them. They're adding more difficulty where I don't really want it. Like I don't mind having like small puzzle sections breaking it up or like Clank sections breaking it up. But some of these puzzles can be a little deceptively difficult.
If you want a tip for those puzzles, it's easier, I think, to solve them if you turn all of the lasers off and then figure out where they're all supposed to go. Because then you don't have these big lasers obstructing the screen,
Yeah, that makes sense. I've gotten a couple of the later game ones, so it's not like I can't do it at all. It's just it takes forever,
Yeah, it does. Some of those are really tough.
Yeah, and it just seems unnecessary, and especially in a shooter platformer, like the thing that I'm looking forward to is not solving these weird laser beam puzzles. But it's still a great game overall for sure.
You mentioned the Buzzblades as well. I really like the Buzzblades. That's a personal favorite of mine.
Mr. Zircon. I know this is a popular choice, but Mr. Zircon's probably one of my favorites. And it's not just because he has sassy one-liners about wanting to kill and destroy everyone. Like that's great too. But like that's just like little confetti sprinkles, jimmies, whatever on the cake. Like the real great thing is he's just supporting fire, and like you really need that in this game because there's so much going on.
Yeah. But like the Those one-liners are fantastic, though.
Those one-liners are fantastic for sure.
Mr.
But I
Zircon's
use the-
currency is pain.
Yes, that's right. Mr. Zircon will give you a symphony of pain, or something like that. It's good shit. I love this game's writing.
I don't want to spoil anything for you, but if you think the weapons are crazy right now, you've got some fun stuff around the corner.
Good. Yeah, I just finished off this big Clank section with a lot of puzzles. I think his sections are interesting and they're a nice break from Ratchet, but again, it almost feels it feels similar to Insomniac Spider-Man game where you were doing puzzles and Mary Jane stealth sections and Miles stealth sections, and it feels like those are okay, but it never feels super necessary. It almost feels like we have to put this in the game because if we don't, the players are going to get bored. And like, I have big news for Insomniac. I like shooting in this game. I'm having a good time, Insomniac. And when you put these puzzles in here, my brain doesn't go, oh, variety. My brain goes, oh, variety. Like, I'm perfectly happy with the platforming and the shooting and just like kind of cycling that out. And I just don't think these puzzles are super necessary. But I mean, it's a minor gripe overall. Like I said, Ratchet Clank 2016, great game so far. I think I'm like 2 to 4 hours maybe away from beating it, so probably only have a couple streams left before I finish it.
Great.
I have also been playing Resident Evil 8.
Yes.
Now I am doing the Spelunkers podcast, so I had to stop at a certain point after the second main boss of the game, which I won't say any more than that. I will not spoil anything, but oh my god, this game is incredibly fucking scary. I just want to say this. Fuck this section. Fuck that section. I hated that section. It was too good at being scary, and I hated it.
You know, what's fun is that literally just before we started recording this podcast, I just started that section.
Oh, my
so
God.
Now I know what I have to look forward to.
Yeah, no, I don't want to ruin anything for you, James, but I just will say it scared me. It scared my partner. My partner screamed. I was worried someone was going to call the cops on us because it was really late at night. And she screamed like not once, but twice. So I was really sure that someone was just going to call the cops because they were blood curdling screams of like, I don't want to be here right now. I don't know if you all remember, but I was posting in one of our many fine Discord channels. And I was like, I am straight up not having a good time right now. I mean, like, I'm just like, I'm speaking in jest. Like, I was having it is a scary in good ways, but it's just incredibly effective. And I think, honestly, this is one of the most scariest parts. One of the scariest parts in a Resident Evil game that I've ever seen. I mean, I think I've played basically all the originals, and then 4, 5, 7, and now 8. And then, yeah, I think like one of the Umbrella Chronicles. But so I played a bunch, but like, you know, I think that this rivals 7's opening hour, if not surpasses it. I think it's just very effective. And I think what's so effective about it, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but what's so effective about it is like the seeming normality of the situation at first and how that just evolves over time. And like, that's all I'll say, but like, it's just a freaky situation. But yeah, the combat is still really solid. And I've just started kind of like the food system a little bit, which is okay. And kind of interesting. I don't think we've ever seen like permanent upgrades in a Resident Evil game before. So that's cool.
There were permanent upgrades in 7. You could find like steroids and whatnot to.
Oh, that's right. I remember that in the little bird cages, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I reckon we're gonna be on this for a wee minute actually, because this is the first chance Mitch and I have had to talk about it. Because I hadn't played it last week and Mitch wasn't on last week. And I have some thoughts. I have some thoughts. I was yeah, with a capital T.
Okay.
Yeah, I was not. I thought 7 was a fun game, but I thought it was kind of mediocre, fairly sort of average at best. And the opening to this game, for me, felt on that same level. But after you get past those first few hours, it really it gets. I mean, it's like almost, I would say, RE2 remake levels of entertainment.
That's a hard pivot, James.
Now that is a hard pivot.
Hey, that's like. Wow.
It is weird that you would call it like an overrated section. That's strange to me that you would compare it to a very overrated Resident Evil game. But anyway,
the opening.
No, not the
Now,
opening.
just-
Resident Evil 2
Oh.
comment.
No.
Just a clarification, James. Also, where does the first 2 hours end? Like, to be as like non-spoiler as possible.
It might not even be. It might just be like the first hour as well, because I'm only 3 hours
Okay.
in. It just felt like it was a couple hours.
Okay.
But
Like, would you say it? Would you say it's before you reach like the first big area, or
no, I would say it's about once you get to the castle.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
You can
But-
just say castle. I don't think that's a
Yeah.
spoiler.
That's
I
not.
don't know
I
if that
wouldn't
was a
recommend
spell or not. I don't
But
know.
yeah, I
It's
know.
been shown in all the trailers and all and in the
Absolutely.
demos.
Yeah.
I
True.
think it's
True.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the castle
The-
section is like the most Resident Evil of the
Yeah.
game, I think.
That's some Resident Evil ass
Probably,
Resident
yeah.
Evil right there.
Yeah.
Got
Now-
the main hall and the stairway and everything, but yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that annoys me the most about this game so far, and I'm sure this is a common sentiment, so I'm sure you can all relate to this. Ethan is a fucking idiot, and I hate him.
I love Ethan. He's a complete dope, but I love him. I love his reactions to everything. It's completely like uncanny and just doesn't make. Maybe I'm using the word uncanny there, but he's just a complete dope, and I love him.
He's-
and,
He's really-
there's one.
He's really fucking stupid. I don't know if Mitch. I'll let you say that because it might be the same thing that I'm going to bring up.
I was gonna say there's. I mean, I'm not gonna spoil it here, but like Dory and Seb will probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But there's one scene in this game, and it's in the castle segment where something happens to Ethan, and his reaction is
I already
just,
know.
"Ah, shit!" Like, it's the most like nonchalant
Look,
reaction. to what's
okay,
happening.
no. I had a more extreme reaction than the
Same,
man
yeah.
it happened to. I went, "Oh shit!" And then
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh shit!" You know, like he just lost a dodgeball or some shit, right? Like he just
Yeah.
lost the dodgeball
Well,
game.
he's
or,
been
like, just
around-
scraped his knee.
He's been around the block at this point. He knows what it's about.
I had a worse reaction, and it didn't even happen to me.
What's weird is like everybody in the game is like well acted, like everybody has, but for some reason the direction for Ethan, like his actor, like they just like they told him to ham it up. Everybody else is like dead serious and does a good job, but for some reason Ethan's actor is just like he's just like William Shatner's the whole
Do
game.
you know
I
what?
don't know
It's-
what.
I mean,
The juxtaposition
sorry.
between like Ethan and one of the characters at the start of the game, where he's like, you know, why? And then the other guy's like, package received, and it's like, both.
It feels intentional, but I don't know. Like it might be.
I love
I
it.
really don't.
I mean, if it's intentional, if it's not, I love it.
I was gonna say you talk about Ethan hamming it up, but have you like heard Carl Heisenberg and his voice and his delivery? Like that's
I
like
believe, I believe you are referring to the Lycans and Gentlemen comment. That is one of my favorite lines of 2021. It may
oh no,
win out.
there is.
It's
Just wait till you get up to his section of the game. I'll
Yeah,
just
I'm
say
very
that.
excited.
Just
I'm
you
very
wait.
excited.
Just
I can't
you
wait.
wait.
Why
I mean,
couldn't we have done the
yeah.
Spelunkers this week? Then I could have continued this excellent game. I'm
Yeah,
very excited.
to be fair, all the
Yeah.
villains do ham it up, but
Yeah.
Ethan especially,
Yeah.
like
The thing
he's
is,
supposed to be
I
a
was-
serious
I was gonna
character.
say,
That's the
the
thing.
It's-
villains
it's-
make
it's
sense
not
for hamming
even-
it up.
Yeah.
it's not even just the acting, right? Like the writing for him.
The dialogue.
It makes him out to be such an idiot because there's a scene in the first hour of the game where he sees in the middle of the road or whatever, he sees this old woman, like totally black clothes all over her, holding a totem with skulls on it, and he says to her, "What are you doing out here? It's not safe." Like this is just some innocent old woman who's gonna get hurt or something. She's holding a totem with
I
skulls
feel
on it.
like Ethan would be in a PSA about talking to strangers, right? You would see Ethan be the dope that he is, walk up to someone who is clearly not friendly or not normal, and then the announcer would do like a little record scratch freeze frame, and it's like, "Has this ever happened to you?"
Sorry, I was just gonna say Ethan in this game very much feels like Leon from Resident Evil 2 remake. like how he's super naive at the start and super like sort of like what the fuck's happening. But the thing about Leon that worked is that by the end of that game, he had an arc, and like he changed. But no spoilers, but like I feel like some of the directions they went with Ethan could have been better. But that's where I'll leave.
Even from like 3 hours in, like Leon you're right, he was like sort of naive and stuff, but he didn't feel like an idiot. Like he like if he received some information or whatever, he could, like, he was a smart guy even if he was naive and didn't understand the situation. Ethan's just an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Leon,
I respect the man. I respect the man who goes through 12,000 different traumatic events and comes out being like, "Yeah, I'm still a dumbass. Like, I really haven't learned that much." Like, lots of respect to Ethan for just no character growth at all.
Yeah. It's even weird that he's naive considering he just lived through like Resident Evil 7. Like
right?
he experienced this.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like, he just went through a fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre situation, and now he's getting chased around by a very tall woman.
I mean, because Leon. Right, because Leon literally after Raccoon City becomes like a government agent and becomes like starts running on walls and doing backflips, and
he works directly for the president of the United States. I think Ethan's gonna be like, I don't know,
talk about a promotion. Talk about a promotion, by the way. Like, holy shit.
I know, right? Well,
I mean, he did survive Raccoon City.
Yeah, I mean, like Chris Redfield like ends up being like huge in like an organization, and then Claire goes on to do similar things that Leon does. I don't know all the lore. But,
I don't think Claire. Yeah, I think Claire kind of gets like shafted in the whole process because I think she just ends up working for another organization, not actually like having a leading role at all. Like I mean,
you clearly haven't played Code Veronica.
I know she runs.
Oh,
into
okay. I haven't.
Darkness,
but yeah.
But you can.
Go ahead.
You can tell. You can tell Ethan's going to end up being the janitor who cleans up after all the future Resident Evil events. He's just going to be the character you play as in the Viscera cleanup detail game, where you just follow around people who have had these huge battles and just clean up all the blood and all the guts off the.
I can't wait for the next game where one of the characters who's been in the trailers and demos and whatever is just going to have Ethan as his Ashley just the whole time, and you just have to make sure that Ethan doesn't get killed and put him in dumpsters. But anyway,
to be fair, Sorry, no, I was gonna say it could be considered spoil, so we'll keep on moving.
Sure.
We might as well just everybody just hit on their Resident Evil 8 sections of their notes.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's true. I
thought that's what we already did, or what we're doing.
No,
I've got more points.
Yet.
I got
me
points.
too. Me too.
You got more points. Yeah. Okay, easy there.
Okay. James. Oh, so Seb, do you want to go first?
No, you can go first, Mitch.
Okay. I was gonna say I beat the game on like essentially all in one go.
Quit bragging.
I think it.
You beat that fast. You definitely did.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say like even as someone who did go back and do what I thought was a fair amount of backtracking into the village and found some secret areas, which I think surely nobody would, come across in their playthroughs, only to find everyone came across them. So I think I had a clearing time of like 7 hours and 10 minutes.
I want to shout out Marvel for a second, who has this game down like I don't even know, like he's got it down to like 2.5 hours, 2 hours 45 minutes.
I mean, he's beaten it like 10 times now.
I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's like Bob Buell Mario Maker levels or Mario 99 levels. It's ridiculous.
I was going to say, Marvel's essentially me with Resident Evil 2 Remake. Only Resident Evil 2 Remake had
or Seb with Resident
at
Evil
least
3.
4 different scenarios.
Wait, how many times did you beat Resident Evil 3, Seb?
10 times.
Why?
I beat Resident Evil 2 Remake about 12 times, and I beat Resident Evil 3 Remake about 10 times.
The Resident Evil 2 I can understand.
Well, Resident Evil 3 I can beat in like 50 minutes, so that's not really saying much.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I beat it on 3 different platforms. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, Resident Evil 2 I beat like 10 plus times, but that's just because their scenario. Like they had
Yeah,
at least
you have
4
to.
different scenarios, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing that's stopping me from like constantly replaying Village and 3 Remake is the fact that it's just the one campaign with very little difference. Because like at least Resident Evil 7 had the Madhouse difficulty, which changed things up a considerable amount. But like as opposed to like Inferno or whatever in Resident Evil 3, which I haven't even unlocked yet, I like nothing really changes from playthrough to playthrough.
That final boss in Inferno difficulty was really hard.
I've heard it gets rough.
You have to perfectly dodge every hit, or you die automatically. You make one mistake, you die. It's like that simple. You have to save right before the boss. You can only save twice to get an S rank. So you have to even with the rocket launcher, it's really hard.
So to go back to Village though, I was gonna say I love the atmosphere of the game. Although I'm still mixed on the story and certain decisions that they make.
Me too.
I'm not gonna spoil it, of course, but there's like certain things near the end that I wish they just could have done more with. Because like I just kind of wish that the game had more depth overall, like especially with its characters, because because at least like with the Resident Evil 2 remake story, they had some, you know, quote unquote depth with their characters where they went on an arc, but Village doesn't really have that as much, which kind of makes it, you know, bit disappointing.
Like a side story.
Yeah, like it kind of feels like the stakes. No, not the stakes, but the way it resolves, it kind of feels like, as you said, like it was a side story. Like it doesn't feel like Resident Evil 8 by the time you finish it. Really, like it's
like the world.
Go.
The world keeps spinning. If he failed, the world keeps spinning. Like Resident Evil 4, if Leon failed, like the daughter would go back to the White House and then like infect the world. But it doesn't have any stakes like that.
They didn't really explain a few things in the story, like a few crucial things in the story, and it kind of left like, and by the fact that they didn't explain them, you just don't understand and feel the stakes as much as you probably should, or as much as the developers want you to. So it's kind of makes the third act a bit underwhelming, but even then I still enjoyed it, just for the fact that, you know, like in typical RE fashion, it does get a lot more, you know, bombastic.
While you're on that point about the third act, I just want to say, for me, the third act is when the game fell off, like Resident Evil 7. I think the third act is not bad, but it definitely falls off pretty bad for me.
I definitely enjoyed this third act much more than Resident Evil 7, because the problem I had with 7, the problem I had with 7 is that they presented a brand new area that lasted for far too long than it ever should have.
The Days Gone problem.
And like, sorry?
The Days Gone problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like they introduced a new area. It went for way too long, way longer than it ever should have. And then it just desperately tries to cobble together an ending and an explanation to the point where you're like, that's it? You know, like, and like this game has the same exact problem. Like there's some much needed exposition in this game that comes off in the way it's like given to you as incredibly lazy. And it's like, I wish they could have done more with that. Like instead of just having such and such tell us what something is, they just like they could have actually shown it to us through the story or the cutscenes or whatever, instead of just reading about it. You know?
Yeah.
At the risk of going on a tangent, that's such a problem with a lot of games, honestly, where they feel like they have this arbitrary play time number to hit, so they introduce like, it's like you think the game's about to end, and then all of a sudden, bam, new area, and then like another 10 hours of gameplay, and it's I would see Resident Evil 7, right? If I paid full price for that, I would much rather have had it end where I wanted it to end, and it be a shorter game, but it would have left a better taste in my mouth by the end. and I would have felt more
Yeah.
satisfied with the money that I paid.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think the problem, because like you know, in my opinion, I think Village doesn't suffer from the same issues as 7. Like, I feel like 7, like Village's pacing is much better than 7, like especially with the third act. But again, the biggest problem is just the fact that the exposition that they need is given in such an arbitrary way where it completely ruins what could have been a really interesting sort of plot point to unravel through gameplay
Yeah.
and stuff. But
Yeah.
instead, they just sort of like at the end, it's like, yeah, here you go, story's wrapping up. Here you go.
Yeah, it's not just that though, but that last section, I won't say what I can't. I don't know if I can. If that's a spoiler if I say
No.
what
Yeah.
building it's in, but that section with you know who, like, I hated those enemies. You know exactly. I hated them.
I
I
mean,
thought it was so generic, and then like the one boss battle in that section was so stupid. I can't say without spoiling, but
I think, I mean, I think we can say it. Like it's the
I
factory.
yeah,
It's been 7 reviews. I'm sorry.
I didn't watch reviews, man.
Well, that's
All right,
what I'm
whatever.
trying to
If the
avoid.
damage is done.
Yeah, no, like it's like
yeah, the
I'm just-
factory. Yeah, the
Yeah, like,
factory is the
it's
worst
the
part of the
factory.
game for me. Yeah,
Yeah,
I hated that
like
whole
it's-
section.
I heard
It's
a lot of
pretty
people
agreed
had
upon by the
pacing
internet.
issues with the last. I heard people had issues with the pacing.
I didn't mind it. I will say
Okay.
that I was expecting it to be far worse than it actually was, and I kind of ended up liking it. But I think that's a hot take, so I don't know where you might land on that, James, when you get up to it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was gonna say overall though, just I wish the game had more depth to it. Like even if it meant for a longer game or a shorter game, I don't really care. Just as long as the story had some more depth to it, then I think that's what would have made me enjoy it more at the end of the day.
Yep.
Yeah, the section you guys were all talking about earlier, where you guys were all like loving it and it was scary and everything. That was the peak of the game, and then it
Yeah.
kind of fell off after that. Not like crash hard, but it,
Creatively, I'd say that's the peak, but gameplay wise, probably not.
no, not gameplay
Yeah.
wise. No, that was
No,
like a different game. Honestly,
Yeah,
for the rest of the
yeah.
game, I can't say more because that's gonna be a big spoiler. But
No, yeah, because that part hasn't been shown in the trailers or anything.
I just kind of say like half of my notes are spoilers here, so I'm really looking forward to doing the spoiler cast, so we can
I'm
get
also
through these.
excited for that.
oh yeah, I really want to jump into the story because the story is really, even though it's not the best
Yeah.
story, it's still a lot to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's Resident Evil lore. I don't know.
Pretty
I don't
much,
know how long
yeah.
you've been here. Seb.
Yeah, this
I know
feels
like
like a
the back
good
of my hand.
this feels like a good place to move on.
I was gonna say yeah.
Yeah. So Dory, you've also been playing.
Oh, I didn't know if you were looking at the Google document and you were like gonna say something. Yeah, I played a little bit of Kingdom Hearts 3 a couple nights
Shocker.
ago. Just you know, just casually fighting bosses on. Hi, how's it going? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I was
That's
fighting
adorable.
like a data boss on critical. Obviously, that's Seb's dog, not mine, because I don't have dogs. Nor do I watch dogs
Yeah.
for a living. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, not terribly much to talk about. Just casually playing Cage 3, fighting a boss that I have always had issue with, and beat them in like less than 20 tries. Felt really good about that. Got a little mad about it because they're a very tough boss. It's weird. It's one of those boss fights where individually their attacks are not super overwhelming, but like when you put it in a sequence, it gets like 10 times more challenging. Like I heard a lot of people say this specific data fight for Kingdom Hearts 3 was like really tough. But like, you know, it was not tough, rather was one of the easiest, but I like that one probably took more tries for me than any other boss. So but that's it. We can go on to someone else.
Great, Alex. Let's move on to you then. Have you been playing anything interesting this week, or maybe if there's anything you want to talk about from before, even that?
Yeah. I know we'll be talking a little bit later about pretty much what I've been playing this past week, but other than that, I've been playing. I just finished up a New Game Plus playthrough for Ghost of Tsushima, and I enjoyed it just as much the second time. I liked a lot of the additions they did for the New Game Plus, such as, you know, keeping all of your upgrades, keeping most of your gear and things like that. because it just made it a lot more fun to be able to approach some of those earlier encounters and missions with all of your total gear. Um, and I also really enjoyed that they pop you out right at the title screen. You don't have to play through I think it was like about hour and a half, 2 hour long prologue section of the game. It just pops you out right where you're on horseback going through that field with the logo
Yeah.
on the screen.
One of the better title screens of recent memory.
It hit just as hard the second time for me. Like that game visually has. I played through it twice now. Got about 150 hours in it, and visually it never got old.
Yeah.
I was still, even on New Game Plus in the third chapter, still like aiming my camera down at my feet and watching like the leaf physics like pop around depending on where you're walking. Like it's still just a gorgeous game and holds up.
It looks great. Don't get me wrong, but have you guys ever gone back and watched that E3 showcase that they did, the first gameplay demo of the game?
It's been a while, but I still remember that.
Yeah, because I've gone back and watched that just a couple days ago. Actually, I watched some of it, and watching that kind of makes me sad because as good as the game looks, it doesn't look anywhere near as good as that gameplay demo.
I think like this might have just been me, but like I think the general internet reaction was, yeah, this is gonna get downgraded because this doesn't like this looks like too much for the PS4, like even the PS4 Pro, like this looks too much for it to handle.
It looked like The Last of Us Part 2 as an open world game, graphics wise.
Yeah, and it's just like it couldn't have sort of handled it as nearly as much as it wanted to. Also, like I think a funny thing with the gameplay demo is that it kind of indirectly spoils one of the late game side missions and story arcs, because like I got up to it in the actual game and I went, hold on, I've seen this before, and then I remembered, I'm like, oh yeah, I literally saw this exact mission.
But I know what's about to happen.
I did enjoy getting to that mission though, because the moment I saw that gameplay demo, like I was obsessed with this game. Like it was, for all intents and purposes, like the game I've wanted for so long. I love Japanese history, and it's nice to see. It was nice to see a game take that setting with a more grounded, realistic approach. Because even games that have had more grounded takes on that still include things like demons and monsters and magic and things like that. And it was nice to just see you're a samurai and that's it. And when I got to that mission, I was really excited to see, oh, this has pretty much remained unchanged from when they showed it to us. And B, I was super excited just to play it because I had watched that gameplay trailer like 10 times in the lead up to this game coming out just because I was so excited about it. So it was like getting to play a movie I had watched a bunch of times.
Did you have you used the photo mode much?
I did a little bit the second time through. I posted a few of them, I think, in your server as well that I took. But my first playthrough, I used it a lot. Second playthrough, I was mostly just focused on, as people normally are with New Game Plus playthroughs, I was like, I just want to finish it again. Like I thought I was going to try and do all the side missions again, but I remembered how long that took for each person. So I essentially did the ones I thought were interesting, like Sensei Ishikawa's side missions, even though his are mostly just, let's go to the top of that ridge, let's look at the enemies down here, and then let's shoot arrows at them. That's every single one of his missions. But I thought the character of Tomoe that you're tracking in that was one of the most interesting characters in the game. So I pretty much was just playing through all those to go like, I want to see this arc again. And I think Lady Masako as well.
I was going to say something, because I only just recently beat Ghost of Tsushima for the first time like a month or so ago, and just considering how long that game took for me to beat, I can't really see myself going through New Game Plus again. Like, did you, like, I mean, you said like you just kind of skipped through most of like the side content. How long would you say it actually ended up taking you to beat it this time around?
I'd say between 30 and 35 hours, somewhere around
Okay.
there. Because
Okay.
you inevitably just with traversal, like and having to discover all these areas because
Yeah.
that's one thing that really blew my mind when I first played through it is how big that area actually is, especially when it's like, cool, you unlocked a new part of the island and it shows you the map and I'm like, there's more? Like
Yeah.
this place is huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it still took me a little bit, but I know controversial opinion. I think it's probably my favorite game, like hands down.
ever.
Maybe my favorite. I can't decide if it's my favorite game ever or my favorite modern title, but it's
Right.
absolutely like flip flopping out of that position quite a bit.
Mm.
So
I've heard a few people with that sentiment, particularly when the game launched.
Mm.
And
Although some of it was hyperbolic for sure.
Mhm.
Some
Like
of
some
it.
of the
but yeah,
I'm not denying it, but yeah.
no, but
It did.
yeah, no, that is high praise. And going into that game, when in the lead up to that game's launch, as excited as I was for it, I didn't see that amount of praise coming. Just knowing Sucker Punch's previous work, which was always solid, but never like best game of all time worthy.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it for me personally has to do with the fact that I love those old samurai films, like pretty much any Kurosawa samurai film with Toshiro Mifune in it is amazing, and I love those. So I think a lot of it definitely has to do with the aesthetic they were going for, and the historical setting really appealed to me more than maybe like just the average consumer is like, oh, a samurai game, and it probably like to the average player still holds up as, wow, this is a great open world game. It feels like I'm Batman in ancient Japan. Like that's awesome. But I think for if you have like I have like a real vested interest just in I think that setting and the look they were going for and what they were inspired by. So it definitely puts it a lot higher up there for me than I think for maybe other people who played it.
Yeah.
So definitely,
Yeah.
I feel like if I were looking at it objectively as an open world game, it'd be like lower on my list. But just because of what it's about, I love it even more.
Yeah. No, you mentioned a second ago Kurosawa. Did you play either time with the Kurosawa filter?
I did. I played about 2 or 3 hours with the Kurosawa filter and the Japanese dialogue.
Yeah.
And I did it specifically when I was going after the Ronin in the game, just for the duels. Right. And it fits so well. Yeah. It's tough to play the whole game with that, especially just traveling from one section to another and like trying to pick out, oh, the fox is there, or here's the bird coming to show me a place. And
sorry.
Yeah. No, it's such a cool concept, and like I have to be in a really specific headspace to have that stuff turned on. But after about an hour and a half, you're like, God, but this game is just too colorful and too gorgeous to have this on the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yep.
Like I was so sure when I got the game that I was going to play through the whole thing with the Kurosawa mode on. But I played a couple hours with it on, and I was like, this is kind of tiring me out. I need to see some colors, because there's so many great colors and so much vibrance in that open world.
Yeah. One of the side missions where you're looking for a specific weapon, I couldn't imagine having the Kurosawa mode on and hearing Jin go, the field with purple flowers, and it's just black and white. I couldn't imagine like not experiencing that moment in color, because those sections, I think there's one where you look for a field with purple flowers and another where you look for a field with yellow flowers, and they're gorgeous. Like gorgeous areas in the game, and I can't imagine having that filter turned on for those moments.
Yeah, one of those things I suppose where they probably expected people to do that for like New Game Plus.
But I mean, props to Sucker Punch though for like adding in like essentially like what's a filter that like that not needed, but like they didn't need it, but they added it in anyways just to pay tribute to, of course, Kurosawa and whatnot. And that like they went full on with it. Like they had the film grain, they had sort of like the little lens distortion or whatever it's called, like everything. Like they could have just as easily put a black and white filter on it.
Sorry, Mitch. Has anybody done like a bigger genre change than Sucker Punch Studios? like Sucker Punch had such a huge genre shift from a cartoon styled raccoon 3D platformer to ultra realistic feudal Japan, and pulled off that genre switch very well, I think. Ghost was definitely I think in my top 5,
Are we
at least top 10.
are we talking like from the start of their sort of career to the end? Because remember they did Infamous in the middle of that.
Game to game, like I think the last game they made before Ghost of Tsushima was
the last before Ghost of Tsushima was
right.
It was Second Son.
Right. But still, even from Infamous to Ghost of Tsushima, that's still a big genre change to go from superheroes to feudal Japan. That's ultra realistic, very historical, very gritty, superpowers, and then you trace Infamous to back to Sly Cooper. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know if there's a studio. I guess my point is I don't know if there's a studio that's done such huge genre changes in between their franchises, because even when Insomniac went from Ratchet and Clank to Spider-Man, there is still some connective tissue there, and also with Sunset Overdrive, right? It feels like there's connective tissue there. But
I mean,
I don't know.
I would argue, for one, I think the one that probably comes to everyone's mind is Guerrilla, going from Killzone to Horizon. Like, sure, they're both kind of futuristic and stuff, but one's a first-person shooter, the other one is like an open world.
I'd say that's the heaviest tilt between like a Sony studio, because I mean, as you said, one's a literal first-person shooter, the other one's an open-world third-person action game. But I mean, hot take here, but I guess like it kind of shows that it's their first attempt at an open world, though, just because
Horizon?
I mean, the system Horizon, because it felt. I mean, the open world mechanics certainly don't feel as dated as Days Gone, but like you can still there's still some stuff that they can work on for the sequel, which I really hope is better than the first game.
And also, Dory, you mentioned Insomniac. They were jumping. I mean, they've been jumping between Ratchet and Clank and other things for pretty much the last fucking 20 years or so. But yeah, they went from Ratchet and Clank to Resistance, which seemed like a big leap as well.
Yeah, sure.
I can think of another developer that's made a pretty drastic change that I know we'll talk about later, but just for the sake of this, it's Sumo Digital.
Ooh,
I mean, Sumo Digital made Team Sonic Racing, and then Sackboy's Big Adventure, and then Hood Outlaws and Legends.
Yeah,
that's a kart racer to a platformer to a multiplayer heist game. So that's pretty drastic out there, I feel like.
Yeah, Sumo's kind of like a jack of all trades, but I imagine they've gotten a lot of experience from supporting other projects, because they bounce around the industry, I think, like no one else.
Absolutely. But I think another thing that's really cool about Sucker Punch doing Ghost is that they not only did they go to this new kind of, even though they've done open world games before, the setting and the genre is definitely brand new for them, but also the multiplayer mode for Ghost Legends feels like, I don't think they've done multiplayer stuff before this, and if they have, I really can't think of anything.
I don't think so, no.
But the fact that they made such a big mode that could have been standalone, I said that a lot with the people I was playing with. I would have paid money for it, like straight up. And
I definitely would have at least paid like $10-15 for that.
Oh yeah, if it were a standalone game and they put $40 on as a price tag, I still would have done it, because the amount of content is not what I expected from that multiplayer mode. Like it's a lot more in depth than I expected. I personally love that it's PvE. I love multiplayer games where you can, where it's co-op. You're not actively pulling against each other in it. And it was free. That's the biggest thing, is it was just free. And it worked so well.
I think the interesting thing you bring up there is that, like, the fact that it is PvE, because probably, like most people doing a multiplayer add-on for Ghost of Tsushima would have thought, oh yeah, we'll just have we'll have it as like PvP, like samurais versus samurais. But then the issue you'd run into there is that it'd probably just be For Honor all over again, and like the gamble they took with Legends going the direction that they did is that they were able to just go absolutely wild with like some of the level design and sort of the ideas that they had, like with Japanese folklore. Like it was utterly fascinating, and it's kind of criminal that the fact that no one talks about this, seemingly no one talks about this game mode anymore, because like, I mean, like, granted, I haven't played it in a while either, but it's like, it was a really fucking good, free add-on for multiplayer.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of incredible. Not to mention they had like a raid and everything as well.
Yeah, the raids were. I don't want to. I'm never doing those raids again. But also genuinely like the nicest randoms I've ever met in playing a video game ever. Just like apparently there was already the moment it dropped this like understood code of behavior where people are like, all right, we bow to each other when we meet, we bow to each other when we leave, and we work together, and that's that.
It's kind of nice though, because like at launch that was certainly the case, but then like like when you play like a month or so after, you just have randoms just sort of just running directly into like on like sort of like the harder difficulties as well. Just have randoms running straight into the conflict and just dying instantly, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to go revive you right now, because otherwise I'll die and the mission will fail.
But there was no in between. They either charged it and cleared everything out before you got there because they've been playing it for so long or for so much, or you're right, they die immediately and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna have to find somebody else.
It's nice when they sort of put in the ability to, like you were saying, like the bowing and stuff. Because I feel like
and the flutes.
Yeah.
The flutes as well.
Because I feel like that sets a precedent. Like it reminds me of like Gran Turismo Sport, where it's kind of understood if you play that game online, because they're very strict about the rules and stuff of doing that, because they have a whole page about etiquette and stuff that they have to sort of force you to read. But because they sort of lay that stuff out in front of you, if you go and play a game of Gran Turismo Sport, it's like the people playing that game are some of the most respectful people playing racing games. Nobody crashes into you. Everyone tries to overtake, cleanly and everything. Whereas if you compared that to some other racing game, I don't know, Forza Motorsport, I've heard horror stories about the online racing in that game where everyone just tries to crash into each other like Grand Theft Auto. But I feel like there's if the developers sort of set up a precedent for that kind of behavior beforehand, that has a big impact on how the community plays the game.
Oh, very, very much so. Because like in Ghost, especially with some of your gear and cosmetics and stuff, and mission wise, that like you get rewarded randomly in the world for bowing and being respectful at certain parts in the game. Like there are very spoiler heavy things that you can do, just that you can get, little touches in the game like that. But I mean, if you just go to a graveyard and bow, you get like visual rewards just from being respectful in the game. My other thing I really liked about Sucker Punch is, speaking of rewards, is the costumes they added in to the multiplayer mode. Again, free game mode, free costumes, and granted you had to earn the costumes in game, but even then they were like, oh yeah, to unlock them, just win a game as or not even win a game, complete a mission as the class you want the costume for. So, oh, I want the hunter costume. Oh no, I have to play the game. But those, what was it? The Bloodborne, the Shadow of the Colossus, Horizon, and God of War. Awesome costumes. But I just Sucker Punch definitely, with this whole game and especially the free content they added on at the end, definitely won me over as a fan. And they're a studio where next thing they put out, I'll always be willing to try it, just because of they got a lot of goodwill from me.
They're definitely in that like top tier of Sony owned studios, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But yeah, have you been playing anything else, or just that and what we will be talking about later on?
Just that and a little bit of Avengers. I'm still one of the like 40 people who play that game. They dropped some new content, but the upcoming roadmap does look really cool. They have a Red Room, Black Widow inspired event coming later this month. And then after that, there's a Cosmic Cube event, which we don't know anything really about, but that drops in June. And then we're looking in late summer is going to be the big Black Panther expansion, which that's what I'm really excited for.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was like a leaked concept art a few months back of the Black Panther design, which ended up looking a lot bulkier than like what it actually ended up being in the trailer they had. So, but yeah, I'm super excited for Black Panther the game, and I think Christopher Judge might be voicing Black Panther, which
that
would
would
be
be really
pretty cool. That would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I think also the Marvel, like the MCU skins that they've got out in the game at the moment, like they've got ones for Black Widow and Hawkeye, I think is out in
That
the
Hawkeye
rotation now.
skin,
Yeah,
it irks me because they put his arm
he's
guard
bald.
on the
Oh yeah.
wrong arm. So like Jeremy Renner in the movie shoots his bow left-handed, but Hawkeye in the game shoots right-handed, so his gear's on the wrong arm, and it irks me every time I see it.
Not to mention their hair as well. Like I mean, like they've got they've got a haired variant of Hawkeye, and they've got like the bald. I don't know what they were doing, but like it feels like.
I will say, like I genuinely have enjoyed my time with that game. I'm glad I've stepped back for a little while. I'm kind of just waiting for whenever an event happens, I play it for about a week and then drop off because I enjoy the combat especially. I still have some problems with the fact that my characters are maxed out and I can still die in like 3 hits. Like, why is the Hulk getting taken down in like 4 hits? I still miss the superhero fantasy of it, of being like super powerful and everything. And
the balance is definitely a bit off in that game, like especially with the end game content and everything.
Absolutely. And they really, it was tough for me to stick with them when they're like, our first free character is Kate Bishop, and I'm like, hey, bold choice, but I like that character, really cool. And I'm like, our next free character is gonna be 3 months out and it's Hawkeye, and I'm like, oh, so you gave me Hawkeye and now I get Hawkeye 3 months later. That's great.
And they're essentially the same character, like in terms of like basic moveset. But yeah, I'm definitely at the stage of the game now where, if, as you said, once they've got like a new event or like a new expansion out, I'll play it. Yeah, exactly. Like I'll play it, but like once I beat the story, like I think I got through Kate Bishop's story in about 3 hours, which like for a free add-on was pretty good value, I'd say.
Yeah.
But then you had Hawkeye's, which was probably half that amount, and
at most.
Because like I mean like, call me weird, but like I was mainly just looking forward to seeing how the story was going to unfold with the Hawkeye sort of edition, and then the story we got was both like severely like they didn't explain anything really, like none of the interesting questions, like why did Hulk become Maestro? Oh, it's just because I did it to survive. Okay, cool. And they gave a tease for the future, but even then it was like really underwhelming. And
all the interesting stuff was like left at the end there. And that says something where you feel underwhelmed, because even then I was like, yeah, that was the most interesting part. The rest of it was running through the desert for about an hour and a half, which was also a big disappointment. As I was like, cool, a new biome, a new area on the map to do missions in, and they're like, yeah, it's a big desert with nothing in it, and there's one mission and it's bugged.
I think the part of the reason which at least did give me some more, entertainment value from the Hawkeye segment was that, because, Zack Snyder's Justice League came out like the day before the patch dropped. So, you had the Nightmare segment from that movie where you've got, like bizarre versions of all these main characters and villains and whatnot. I'm like, okay, that that's a really cool idea for a superhero story. And then I don't, like, they obviously weren't intentionally trying to mimic it directly, but they had similar setup in in the Hawkeye DLC, and I'm like, okay, I can kind of get into it just because of that idea alone. But just like Zack Snyder's Justice League, they don't do anything with it, really. They just like sort of go like, hey, here's some, like here's a version of these villains or characters or whatever that are in the apocalypse. You'll know nothing more about them. They're just,
and you might never see them again.
No.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, and I do like this game, I promise. But I think the main thing that's made me cool on it because I do have about roughly like 200 hours in it, which is ridiculous.
I don't think I even have that much. Jesus.
I like it because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, if I get down to what I like about it, I like being Captain America and I like to smash robots. That's about it.
That's pretty fair. That's pretty fair.
But I think what's really cooled me fast on it is the length of time between new characters and the lack of variety in them so far, and the fact that Hawkeye came out in March and we're gonna have to wait till maybe August for the next character.
At the earliest.
And I mean, and let's be honest, the main appeal of these Avengers games is new characters and the big cast of characters that you'll get to play as. And if it's going to take this long for all these characters to come out, then it's a game where I'll see you next year. You know, call me when you've got the Wasp in there. Like,
I mean, like I'll say, you know, like I'd be a bit more forgiving to that point because, you know, like they've got supposedly new story content and stuff coming up, but in the case of Hawkeye, when the story content is very, you know, like barely an hour and a half long, and the actual story developments that come from it are not that good at all, then it's just kind of like I've waited 3 months for nothing, essentially.
Yeah. Might as well go back to the harm rooms.
Yeah, like, which, I mean, the trophy for that is bugged on my end, so I don't think I'll ever get the platinum anyways if I decided to go for it, but...
I have one trophy left to get the platinum, and it's to finish 50 Hive missions, and I just don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. It's so...
Hives are the worst. They're the worst.
Yep, they are terrible. But I like the game. Anyways, that's what I've been playing.
Great. Do you guys want to hear something crazy?
What?
You know how, Mitch, you know how your what you've been playing segment is always the longest by a country mile?
Usually, yes.
Yeah. We're an hour in and we haven't even gotten to yours yet.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, James, I was planning on sort of like going through mine fairly quickly this week, just to say...
the Resident Evil impressions in the middle.
True,
you just put a timestamp there.
We got that nice out of the way. All right, Mitch, take us through it then.
Okay.
Lay it on us, Mitch.
Well, let me do the... So, just quickly, I've been playing a bit more of Yakuza 0. Majima has certainly grown on me. Like, I forget whether I mentioned it last time, but like I got up to the start essentially of chapter 3 where he comes in. I wasn't feeling him at the start. I'm like, okay, you know, like I just want to go back to Kiryu, you know, like I don't really care about this new guy. He's certainly grown on me though. I don't care that much for his main plot though. Like all the side content I'm in love with. Like I'm the funny thing about this game, and I'm assuming most Yakuza games in general, is that, you know, like the characters in side missions and the characters in main missions are like two completely different people. And it's the main but in Kiryu's case, I was interested in and invested in both the side mission Kiryu and the main mission Kiryu. But with Majima, I don't really care for his main plot at the moment. Like that could very much change, but right now I'm like, okay, I just want to, you know, get to the end of this chapter and hopefully move back to Kiryu. But I think really.
Yeah.
Really,
I love Majima's main story, and I love his side. I haven't gotten any further from where I was. I'm still at the beginning of chapter 4, back to Kiryu, but I haven't gotten anywhere since because I've been so busy with Mass Effect and Hood Outlaw and a few other things like I mentioned before. But yeah, so but yeah, it's the opposite.
Yeah. One notable side mission though that I really found myself loving was that you come across this little girl who's sort of staring longingly outside of like an arcade or something, and she, you know, like Majima's saying, is like, hey, you shouldn't be here, you know, like there's bad people out here, you know, they're gonna, you know, try and like steal something or do something worse to you or whatever. And she's like, yeah, I don't care. I just like looking and googling at the the little UFO game machine prizes they have there. And so essentially what she asks is that, you know, like what you end up doing for her is you essentially end up like going in and winning the prizes that she wants. So all up, I probably spent, because you have to do it a few times for her, and she just keeps on coming back. I ended up probably spending like a collective 45 minutes to an hour just trying to win some game prizes for a side mission. It has a really good payoff, I reckon, and at one point the girl starts calling you daddy, like in an affectionate kind of way, and she explains her whole backstory or whatever, and I'm like, this is really sweet, like I am glad I wasted time getting those UFO prizes for you, I am glad. But yeah,
there's a lot of those moments in the side missions where you expect a certain result from them and they still end up surprising you or having nice conclusions that are really like nicely wound up. And I felt that both true for Kiryu and Majima, maybe a little bit more so with Majima, but I totally agree there.
I feel like what you call it? I feel like Majima in the side quests seems to have like a bit more depth and nuance to him than Kiryu. But
Kiryu's the straight man. Majima is not afraid to have fun. I think that's
exactly. I think like that's the big difference between them. But anyways, that's Yakuza 0. I guess I've also been playing a bit more of Returnal, which I just after 2 weeks ago, after we finished the podcast, I had a 3+ hour run where I beat bosses 2 to 4 on the first try. So yeah, last me
You're holding for applause.
No,
it's not coming.
I probably went from about Bio 1 to Bio 5, I want to say, in that 3-hour run. And then at the moment I've just gone up to Biome 6, which is Biome 6 is difficult as hell. Like if you didn't find the previous biomes difficult, the last one is brutal, I'd say, but it's very much brutal in the same way that like Doom Eternal is brutal, even though it just doesn't have the same nuances of like combat and whatnot as that game. I'd say hot take, because I listened to you guys' discussion on the save topic last week. I don't mind the lack of saving options. Like I think they should add in at least the option for people to turn that on in a future update if they need it. But I'd say the thing with this game is that, and it's like sort of one of those things that like you'd really have to play it to understand. But like you have objectives and stuff, like different milestones in the game that you use to essentially like advance the story. Once you complete one of those objectives, like that's like you never have to go back and do it again. Like once you've got the tick on that, you've essentially like already progressed like further into the game. So like say if one of the objectives is like go into these 3 rooms, like survive these 3 rooms and get a key in there, you never have to collect those 3 keys again. Like you can just go straight on through to the next biome, which definitely like sort of makes dying a lot less punishing than it seems.
Yeah, I don't think the reason it needs I think like the reason it needs a save thing is because the runs, it's not because of a lack of like losing progress when it crashes or whatever. It's maybe because the runs are just so long. So if because you said you had a 2-hour run or something like that.
Right now.
What if you've only got like 30 minutes to play? Are you supposed to just leave your PlayStation on?
That's definitely a fair point. Like as I said, like they should at some point give the option at least to have saves or whatever. But I think like essentially like as I said though, like once you like with you completing objectives and stuff, which like you can complete objectives fairly decently. It's like sort of makes dying or having to restart the cycle again a bit less punishing than it sounds. I mean, like, I'm one of those like people who got all the way through Death Stranding with no complaints. So I'd say like I can take some punishment more than other people, which I promise to God that isn't a brag. But it like I can like say if I die after like an hour-long run, I'm not gonna like usually I won't be going like I lost progress, I'm now unmotivated. Like I'd still go into the next run motivated, ready to complete some more objectives or just get further than I did before. But the 6th biome is definitely making that difficult, as I said, because it's hard as hell, and you have to go through a whole other biome, which I mean
granted, you can run through in like 5 minutes or less. But yeah, just you have to get to that biome, and then once you get there, if you don't have, if you haven't invested enough time in the previous biome to get, decent weapons and items, then you're kind of screwed. And the fact that the best weapon in the game is so hard to come by, which is necessary for that final biome, just makes it all the more, not frustrating, but just like slightly annoying when you can't get that far into the run. But either way, I'm still really enjoying the game. There are also some, no spoilers, but the house segments got really fucking weird by the end. There's like, I've got clips of them, but there are some really weird visual moments in the house segments, which I might post to Twitter at some point. But yeah, that's Returnal. The next game that I've been playing is, and ignore the dog barking in the background if you can.
Okay.
The next game I've been playing, right after Village actually, is The Evil Within 2, which I'd say I forget how much I love this game. Honestly, like I think it's probably the pinnacle of modern day survival horror, which I don't know, might be a hot take or something.
I don't know. Well, but was this?
I don't know.
Can I ask? Was this
Mhm.
like a case of, okay, I've just finished Village, but I kind of want more of this tone, so I'm going to jump into another survival horror game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I'm like, the way I ended, well, the way Village ended, it's kind of like leaves you not unsatisfied, but it's like wanting more. Like I'm still satisfied with like with how the game ended or whatnot, but I just wanted more from it, and I figured, well, like I'm gonna sit on Village for a bit longer just so I can like make up my thoughts.
I mean, Mitch, I've got great news for you. They're coming out with a multiplayer in a few months, so I mean, like, that'll really fill that need for you. You know,
What?
the multiplayer.
There's multiplayer?
I was kidding.
Oh, wait, you mean RE-verse? Never mind. Okay, because I thought I missed an announcement while I was asleep, but no.
I've got a code for REverse with my copy of Resident Evil 8. So if anyone wants a code for REverse, please
The
reach out to me
servers
on
are-
Twitter.
So the funniest thing is that, because I bought it digitally, so RE-verse still downloaded for me, but so I went into it like, oh, okay, I thought it was delayed. So you can still open the game and everything, but it'll just say servers aren't online. It it's the funniest thing to open the game up and for them to go, oh yeah, the servers aren't working. Sorry about that. Oh my god, RE-verse is a mess. But anyways, so back to the Evil Within 2. Yeah, I ended Village. I'm like, I want more, of this survival horror yet slightly action leaning tone. So into the Evil Within 2, which I'd say, like the semi-open world layout that they have is absolutely fantastic. Like I probably spent 3 hours alone just in that first open world area before I even started the main story content. Which I'd say, is what Village should have done. They should have just like, maybe not necessarily made the village bigger, but given the village, like maybe even like side quests or side characters or something that just made you engage with the village further. Because like, after a certain point, once you go back through the village, it just kind of feels empty in a way, other than getting certain items, which, yeah, I mean, I might not be the only person who holds that opinion. But like the collecting and crafting materials, that's satisfying as hell. The gunplay feels amazing. Like if you get like two like well aimed headshots into an enemy, you can just like sort of kill them like that, and the little explosions that happen from them and the sound design is just like chef's kiss, like mwah, amazing. I'd say it has the perfect mix of being an action horror, like you feel like a full badass, but you can still run low on supplies easily, and like get screwed over just as easily, and like they still have that tension that's needed in there that Village was lacking for majority of the playtime, because like even in Village, even if I was running low on supplies and ammo and stuff, I still didn't feel
scared just because I knew that, like I'd find a decent amount of ammo, somewhere in my travels.
Yeah, that is
but
sorry. While we're on that topic, that is the one thing I forgot to mention earlier. Is like, I've been going gung ho. Just I know
yeah,
I know you guys were saying last week as well that you can avoid enemies and stuff like that. I've just been shooting everything, and I don't think I don't think I've ever come close to even running out of ammo. There's tons of it.
Yeah, no, same. Yeah, no, I'd say the same. Like I'd say like there were only like 2 or 3 occasions.
I realized like a good amount into Resident Evil 8 that I didn't need to conserve ammo anymore. It was an action game for most of it, so
Yeah,
I play it totally different.
I've never bought. I've made it a personal challenge to myself to never buy any ammo from the Duke, and so far it's going pretty well. So.
Oh yeah, no, like
same.
But
buying ammo was a waste of time.
The Evil Within 2 being the pinnacle of survival horror, though, like
modern day survival horror, like in the last decade or so.
I thought it was too action packed to be a survival horror game. Like that was an action game.
I disagree. I think like it's kind of like it runs that same balance as like RE Village does, arguably, where it does lean more into the action, but it still has enough suspense and enemies that like I feel like the thing with the Evil Within 2 is that like you have these open world segments where like you can just go off like sort of running anywhere and finding supplies and stuff, but after a certain point, like in the second open world area especially, like they throw so many more enemies at you, like where you have to really like be careful about where you go, and like like if you run just gun-ho into everything, you will die. Like you can't, like if there's like a crowd of like 5 enemies or something, like doesn't really matter how many bullets you have, like you will still at the very least take some considerable damage if you try to like attack a whole group of enemies head on.
Yeah.
But like whereas with Village, like it's like I'll shoot an enemy and then like whatever. But yeah, that's Evil Within 2. I'm still working through it, but I'm absolutely enjoying my time with it so far, and I'm barely halfway through the game, and I've already surpassed my actual runtime in Resident Evil Village by like a good hour or so. Like granted, they're differently, like Evil Within 2 is a longer game by itself, but the amount of exploration and side content there is just like sort of makes it a whole lot more satisfying for me.
I've never played any Evil Within games, but I've definitely thought about checking them out. So this piqued my curiosity.
Definitely check them out. The first one's much more closer to a survival horror, I'd say. Yeah. Like as Seb said, the second one definitely leans a bit more towards action, but it still has enough horror elements in it,
right,
that it's not like a complete blunder in terms of the horror aspect. Like they still have some decent scares and whatnot. Yeah. In that game, the last game I've been playing a bit. I've a good friend of mine. She got me into playing Stardew Valley, and I'm like, okay, well it has a co-op mode, so like fuck it, I'll bite the bullet. It's very slow to start, but like it's kind like the story they're trying to tell is obviously one of like you're just like another cog in the wheel or whatever the hell the saying is in like a Amazon type company who are trying to deforest this little village town or something. Like all the little characters of the valley itself, they've got like like their own little personalities and schedules itself, so it's really like fun getting to know them. But I'd say the best thing about my experience with the game so far is like it feels good just to like be taught something in a game again. Like I'm getting my friend to like literally walk me through, okay, this is what you have to do on like these type of days, and like if it's raining, don't do this, and don't stay out till like past 12 a.m. or something, otherwise you'll lose currency or whatever. And I'm like, without you there, like I would have known nothing of this stuff, and I would have absolutely failed during like my first few days, and I probably wouldn't have picked up the game again. No, I'm really enjoying my time with the game. It's definitely a slow burn, and it's definitely a tilt away from your Resident Evil Villages and Evil Withins. But no, I'm having a good time.
Nice change of pace. I mean,
yeah,
you must have already gotten further than I ever got in it, because I was under the impression it was just a a nice sort of story about you inheriting a farm and farming things.
It, like, I mean, because I'm pretty sure, that they've updated it since, like, for a while. They've added in some story segments. Like, apparently, like, there's a whole ending to the game as well, which I wasn't expecting. I think because I'm not sure if you saw it, but like in the opening cutscene, you had like your main character. He's like at an office job with a company whose logo has like the signature like sort of swish thing that the Amazon logo does. Like it's like and like the basics are the same. You still inherit a house from your grandfather or whatever who's died, but like I feel like there's like setting up the idea that like this company is slowly trying to expand its horizons and eventually like sort of take over the town and like knock it down or whatever. But like it's not an in-depth story at all. Like it's definitely one you have to like. It's far more focused on the individual character stories than anything else, but there's still that greater picture. There's that wider picture in the background there. And yeah, like really, I haven't played much. I've probably only played like a couple of hours, but I'm enjoying my time so far. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
Right, Zeb, you are the last one because the only thing I've been playing this week is Resident Evil Village, which we've already talked about at length. So yeah, Zeb, what have you been playing?
So I beat Super Mario 64 for the millionth time. My second favorite game of all time. I played it on the Switch. It doesn't hold up very well, but I still enjoy it because I grew up with it. But yeah, it doesn't hold up at all. And the port is very lazy.
Did you get it digital?
Yes.
You snagged it before they took it off the store. Yeah, I've tried playing it. I enjoyed it, but yeah, I know like it. Those games haven't aged amazingly. Especially with like the camera controls for that one as well. So yeah, I fell off after a few levels, but it's definitely still fun.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm also playing Super Mario Sunshine for the first time since 2002 when I was like 9 years old. So I'm enjoying it. It's definitely an improvement over Super Mario 64. It definitely feels like a newer game for sure. The controls are a lot more fluid. It does have difficulty spikes that I remember when I was a kid. Like there's certain sections where the platforming is actually really hard, and if you get a game over, you have to go all the way back and do that all over again. So I don't like the life system anymore. I think that's a product of the 90s. I like new Crash Bandicoot. They got rid of the life system. I like that much better, especially since I died 150 times in the last level in the Crash Bandicoot. So
Damn.
yeah. So I'm enjoying that. So I'm gonna beat that and then beat Mario Galaxy for the first time.
Yeah.
So I'm also playing. I also beat Halo Wars, which, like I said, I'm getting through the whole series before Infinite. Halo Wars is a great game, a good RTS game. I really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it. Pokemon Snap. Yeah, same thing as last week. I don't have anything else to add. It's a fun, casual game. I'm not trying to rush through it, but I don't have much more to say about that game.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Resident Evil Village we already talked about for 40 minutes. So Mass Effect, and then play Mass Effect. So yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep, I can't believe your what are we playing segment was so long. It was just it was.
I know you really
going
fucking
with
dragged
all
that
of
out for us, man.
I was gonna make a joke on the opposite spectrum of that. Like we're gonna have to fucking enter Seb into SGDQ or something like that because that was like the fastest. What have you been playing? I think I've
I don't put 10 bullet points for every game I'm playing. So
every week.
Yeah, we will move on though to impressions for this week. So the first game that we're going to talk about here for impressions is one that we didn't talk about last week because I believe it came out before last week's episode. But one of the reasons that we've got Alex here today is to talk about Hood, Outlaws and Legends, which you and Dory have both been playing, right?
Yeah. We actually played a little bit before the show today too. I'm really enjoying my time with that game. which is good because I was very hyped for that game leading up to it. Very high amount. So it's nice that it feels like that game delivered. For me personally, I do have, it definitely has its own problems for sure. But I've put about 10 or so hours into it so far, and I'm really enjoying my time with it. And the concept is really interesting to get acclimated to.
Yeah, so I've probably put in about half that time, maybe 5-6 hours.
Mhm.
I'm probably just about as hot on it as Alex is, maybe a little less so. For those who don't know, the whole premise is basically PvC VE, so player versus computer versus enemy players. And basically, you're all kind of like in Robin Hood times. You're all trying to steal from the state to give back to the poor, and you do that by basically like doing this big heist on like the state's what it might be a castle or it might be a big building or it might just whatever, but usually it's a castle, and you're just working together to make sure that you get the money, you bring it back, and then you winch it away. And this goes from a PvC in the first 5-10 minutes to a player versus player for about the rest, PvP.
So it kind of sounds a bit like Payday 2.
Yeah, it's been compared to Payday. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because the concept of like PvPvE, where you're two teams going against the computer to complete the same objective. It just it's whoever does it first. It's a really interesting concept. Especially since they picked, literally the story of Robin Hood as the setting, which my first instinct is like, why aren't there more Robin Hood games in general? That's just a free, public domain IP you can just grab right there and make something out of. But it's a very interesting concept. I really enjoy the first half of the game, in which your first two objectives are to steal the key from the sheriff, and then your second objective is to take that key and unlock the vault and get the chest of gold out of it. And those definitely rely a lot on stealth. In fact, you can't even get the key by doing anything else but stealth. And it's really fun to be able to coordinate with your teammates and ping your enemies and say like, there's a person over there, I'm going to take this person over here, and coordinate your stealth takedowns and kills. And then essentially once you get the chest and you start to take it to one of the extraction points on the map, because there's normally 3 to 4 extraction points, that's when anything that has to do with stealth just falls apart. Completely falls apart.
Yeah, as the kids used to say, shit gets real at that point, because basically everybody is hurrying and scurrying to one specific point on the map, and it just becomes a bloodbath. And at that point, stealth is not anything. I mean, sometimes you see stealth kills, but that's mostly player versus player at that point. I will say, like, right at the get-go, this is not winning Game of the Year awards. This is not a cinematic masterpiece, right? The character models do not look like this is a double A ass game, right? Absolutely, which I think is fun. I'm putting out there that like my praise and like level of excitement for it, I think is fairly appropriate. Like, I'm not expecting excellent storytelling or perfect controls. I just I love the concept, I love the premise, and I look forward to playing it when I play it.
Well, now that you say that, you actually make me curious. For the both of you, do either of you actually see this landing on your top 10 at the end of the year?
I can see it landing on mine, personally. And that might just be because, don't know what the holiday season looks like yet. And E3 is right around the corner, so there are probably going to be plenty of things that are announced in June with like a September, October, November date. So I can't make any promises, but I can definitely see it landing on my top 10. Just because it's just such an oddball premise that really appeals to like a lot of the obscure interests I have. So it's definitely a niche game, and I fell into that niche very hard.
Yeah, I would very much agree with that. Like, I think, sorry, Mitch. I think it'll be lucky if it's. I don't mean to be like it's a big deal or some shit, but like I think like it'll probably. It's a sign of how dry this year has been that it's a possibility this could be on my top 10. Because I think in normal years where we didn't have the global pandemic going on and video games delays were happening everywhere, that I don't think this would probably make my honorable mentions, but this might make my top 10. And honestly, it's maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10 kind of game. You know, maybe like a 3.5 out of 5 kind of game here.
So like in the bottom half of your list, you'd
for sure. I mean, I've already started kind of, you know, getting some of the titles that are going to be in my top 10 on a list because I'm just kind of curious. Like, okay, it's about we're at about the halfway mark of the year. Like, where am I standing on like the games this year? And I mean, like, there's a couple that might get on there, but like I have a pretty firm idea already of what my top 5 are probably going to be. And Hood Outlaws is not in there, but it might be in my top 10 because I genuinely do think this is a great game. But like Alex said, I mean, for the first maybe a little bit, and sometimes not even that, right? Because there are some real balancing issues with this game, and I'm sure Alex is going to mention this too. But there are different classes, right? So there's a Robin class that's your sniper or archer. There's a Marianne, who is the rogue. That's me. And then there is a healer, or basically kind of like mid-range, long-range guy, or short range guy.
Friar Tuck.
Who's also, who's like Friar Tuck, who's like the cleric. And then there's John. And John is the brawler. And John fucks everybody up.
He is the most broken character I've ever seen in a video game.
I was gonna say I watched the IGN review where the guy literally highlighted the fact that for like one of their games, everyone went as John, and they won the match like no contest. Like they just demolished everything and everyone. And
that poor
maybe it's not as silly as you guys make it sound, but I love the idea that you've got this sort of Robin Hood game where everyone has all these Robin Hoody kind of names, and you've just got one guy called John. Just throw in there.
I mean, it's very much Little John, but instead of in the movies, instead of his bow staff or whatever, he's got a giant sledgehammer. So imagine thinking you're doing everything correctly. You're stealthing through the bushes, you're doing takedowns, you're opening up new routes, you're dropping down ropes for people to climb up, you're sniping people off, you're doing a great job. And then this one dude just comes up and presses R1 one time, and you're dead. And he doesn't do the stealth takedown. He didn't earn it by sneaking up to you. John just comes barreling down from 40 feet away and jumps in the air and slams his hammer down, and you and anybody who might be right next to you are dead. And
sorry, I was just a quick question. Is there any like forms of like skill progression or anything in this game, or is like everyone the same in terms of like abilities and skill set? Like are there any like sort of upgrades you can get, or is it just
each character has 3 perk slots with about 4 different perks in each slot. And each character has their own special gear. So, like in Robin's case, he has a flash bomb. Marianne has a smoke grenade. John has a literal like hand grenade. And then each character has their own special move that has a meter that's filling up over time. So Robin's is an explosive arrow that has like a area of effect. John is super armor. Different things like that. So everything is really. I'd say the other 3 characters are very well balanced, especially if you have like a Robin and a Marianne facing down. It's literally just a game of dodging and shooting arrows. But yeah, if a John shows up and you're not also playing as that character, you have absolutely lost that encounter. That's just it.
Yeah, I play as Marianne exclusively, and I can't tell you how much her value as a member of a given team decreases once that first half of the game is done, right? Like I'm kind of ripping off the IGN review here, but it's absolutely true that once the stealth portion of the game is done, Marianne becomes a lot less useful. I still enjoy playing as her. It's not, it's not like I suddenly hate the game in the second half. I still find it very interesting. But I mean, like, Marianne loses a lot of her utility once that second part begins. But I still enjoy it. I still find a lot of fun in it, just not as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say one question I have for you guys is it possible at all to do stealth in that second half, or is sort of other like the amount of enemies that comes, is it like literally impossible to go back into stealth and try and go into hiding?
It depends on the on the position of the extraction point, because some places have the state guards more than others, so not only would you have to deal with NPC characters coming at you, but also the enemy team. But I'd say pretty much the only option you have about stealth is if you've died and you're respawning. Then you might have the ability to sneak up on a Robin who might have a point where he's perched up away from the extraction point to defend his other teammates. Then you might be able to sneak up on people, but at most extraction points you can see anybody coming from any direction, essentially, because it's just a big open space where, admittedly, you're very vulnerable in that space, but nobody's going to be sneaking up on you to do a stealth kill or anything like that.
No, they're just gonna. How much is this game in terms of like price, and like is it? Would you say it's like priced accordingly, and you got like a decent bang for your buck? Or
yeah, it kind of remains to be seen, and I'll explain that. And that the game is $30, so it's, I think for what it is, that's a fair price. Yeah. I bought the $50 edition with like the deluxe pass, so I got a costume pack, a weapon pack, and which those are purely cosmetic. And then the season pass, which has 4 different battle passes. 3 battle passes. I think it's 3 battle passes in it. So 3 seasons worth of battle passes is what you bought in that. So they haven't released the first one yet, so that's why I say it kind of remains to be seen. But also all of the 5 free drops of content that they're doing are all free. The only thing I paid extra for was the battle passes itself and that cosmetic pack. So we'll see in that regard.
Yeah. So, which kind of brings me on to my next question. So, is this game like a live service game where they're adding in new maps and characters and whatnot, or is it just a matter of like them having in-game seasons for cosmetics and stuff?
They are adding maps and characters and cosmetics. As far as I've seen, every new character, every new map, and every new like game mode are all going to be free. The only thing that you would pay money for is a battle pass, and that's to earn cosmetics. Even right now in the game, the only cosmetic you have to pay real money for is the one that comes in the battle pass deluxe upgrade. There's like a wealth of costumes in the game that you just unlock by playing the game. So I think in terms of live service games, it's definitely on the lower end of trying to get money from the player.
Okay, so it doesn't feel like they're... I was going to say, it doesn't feel like they're robbing you.
Oh Christ!
See,
Mitch came straight out of the hood with that joke.
I will say that some of the bugs I found in the game is that you will the problems it has are like so inconsequential, but it's so funny in that you can just randomly Dory and I can party up, right? And we'll have 2 other people on our team that are randoms. Yep. But the voice chat we're hearing is a completely different party in a completely different game.
What?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
I did notice this. Wait a second. So first I got to talk about what Alex and I overheard, because this was great. Hi, buddy. So this was great. So somebody was playing their TV or some shit, and someone was saying like, to all those teachers out there, in like deep Southern drawl here, to all those teachers out there who thought I'd end up as an alcoholic and an asshole, you got lucky. And I was like, that's so fucking funny.
And it wasn't like I when we finished that game and I went back to the hideout, it was just me, because the hideout's like your hub area before you play a game. We went back to the hideout. I was the only person in my party, and I heard 3 people complaining about being able to hear me, and they were like, "Can we just mute people? Like, I don't understand." And it was so funny because I was like, "You actually can't mute me. I have no idea why we're able to hear each other.
You have no power here."
So that's really funny. Is you could be in a game and hear a completely different game happening in your voice chat, and then be stuck with people in your hub area.
I've never heard of anything like that
Your
happening.
hood.
So
You
weird.
could say in your hood.
Yeah, so I want to be clear too that there's a main hub for you to train, for you to get perks, for you to change your clothes, for you to change weapons, for you to change characters, and that hub is basically your hideout, and you return to it after every heist, and from there you can either do heist or you can just do PvP or PvC, player versus computer, and that's basically considered practice. It's not a real heist. But it does remove the kind of frantic action at the end if you're not into that.
Yeah,
it's not a perfect solution, but it does. I enjoyed my time when I did a couple practice rounds at the beginning.
And I'm hoping that they expand upon that in the future. Because I do like the idea that they included a mode where it's just you can party up with your friends and play against the environment without the enemy team interfering. And I like that you can essentially have that whole experience as a stealth experience with your group of friends. The only issue I have with it is that you don't get any sort of progression from it as far as like your character level and your player level. And I understand, that why they might do that and why they might not do that. I would have personally been like, I would like to get progression from that at like a lower amount, So like, yeah, I get less gold and less experience than if I played it online. But that's just me wanting to have a PvE experience in a game. But they've already said that they are already working on updates that will, in their words, in Sumo's words, balance characters, but we all know what that means. And to work on some more game modes and content updates. So if they expanded on the PvE sections of it, I'd also be really happy with that.
Yeah, I will say the other big criticism that a lot of people have had about this game is that there's no crossplay. I mean, technically there's crossplay, but you can't party up with friends from other platforms. No. But it when you're when you're doing matchmaking, it's from all platforms. So it's kind of a half-baked crossplay, but it's not for a lot of people's money. I will say, by the way, this not to correlate money and all and playtime and all that stuff, but the game is only $30. So I will say that for its favor. It's not a full title, or it's not a full price title. And it's a nice relief after seeing so many games that come out recently that are $70. So I think Hood Outlaws, especially for its price, is very good. But yeah, Mitch, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, do you see like we mentioned for Ghost of Tsushima Legends earlier, do you see this the random player base in this game sort of like devolving into just a mess of people just running around and doing whatever? Is at launch at least, is there at least decent communication between randoms, or
not really.
No.
Yeah, I had one very unpleasant experience where it was this gamer bro who was yelling and screaming half the time, making rape jokes, which was really great to listen to, and was just an absolute dick. And anytime he died, a little part of me in game, a little part of me was like, sweet justice. So, and he was on my team, by the way. So
it's very much got your typical, not to lump everybody in one thing, but it's very much just got your typical multiplayer lobby.
I literally had the thought of, this is why I stopped playing video games for a while, because of people like that guy. It's just, the communication's not great.
You're just better off, muting everybody and using the ping system.
For sure. Yeah, and honestly, not even a lot of people use that. It's people do kind of work together, but just kind of because you have to. You really don't want to play with randoms. You want to play with friends. I can't really recommend from the limited experience I've had, and it seems like Alex has had similar. I can't really recommend playing this game with randoms. I mean, you shouldn't be anyway. You should be stealing from the state with your friends. Sharing is caring. But I would recommend playing with friends.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was gonna say I'd say that's not a deal breaker for me at this point, but it's at least like at its $30 price tag, especially like, for a game where enjoyment is usually, by the sounds of it, is kind of dependent on the people you play with, then like a $30 price tag, like for me at least, is a bit too much right now.
Fair enough.
But like, yeah, like I'd say like if it becomes like free on PlayStation Plus, like I'd say like absolutely
This
like
is, this is a perfect PS Plus game, and I wish
Yeah.
that would have happened because we would have
That's
there
the-
would have been so many more players. But yeah,
that's the vibe I kind of get from this game, is that like it would have been like a perfect like PS
It's,
Plus game.
it's definitely a big 6 or 7 out of 10 kind of game, and I do not. I'm not trying to hide that, but I still really enjoy it. And I think just to throw shade for a second, I bet the player base lasts longer than the Avengers game did.
Ooh.
Well,
That's not saying much.
Avengers had to have had a player base at launch for us to have something.
True.
To do that too,
Damn.
so.
Okay. All right. I was trying to be nice.
Boom, boom.
Dirt. All right.
I play that
Shots
game a
being
lot.
fired.
Let me tell you how much of a pain it is to find a match.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
Damn, combo breaker.
Call the burn unit.
I didn't know we were playing Mortal Kombat because that was a fatality.
Do you guys think it was do you think it was a bad idea to release this game so close to like Resident Evil 8 and Mass Effect, and these games get overshadowed by their Returnal and
It was. I honestly, Seb,
Yeah.
even if fucking Roblox 14 had come out the next week, I think this game would have gotten overshadowed. Like I agree with
Yeah.
Alex completely that this is a very niche game, and you've got to either have very specific historical taste or very specific political taste to find this kind of game very very appealing. Like the
Intriguing.
premise
Yeah.
is really what drives me wanting to play this. 'Cause as soon as I heard about the premise, I was like, that's rad as fuck. I love Robin Hood, and like I grew up watching Robin Hood Men in Tights and the Disney version of Robin Hood. And then I think there was one with fucking somebody.
One every year.
Russell
Russell
Crowe.
Crowe, thank you. I was like,
I
I
love
think it
that
was Les Miserables, but couldn't remember.
No.
Anyway,
Sure.
so I've grown up on a lot of Robin Hood. I think I even watched a TV series of Robin Hood at one point that was surprisingly good. So it's just like I love that whole kind of historical approach to video games. And like Alex said, there are not enough Robin Hood games. Like the kids are saying, it's free real estate, y'all. Like these make great games.
I wanted to play Robin Hood games so much when I was growing up, and you had Robin Hood Defender of the Crown, which was a RTS, and that's it. That's pretty much it. But yeah, I mean, like Dory's saying, hooded archers wearing green is an aesthetic that appeals to me, and now I get to do that. And whenever I do that, it also ends up with a very gory headshots. So great little combination there.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty much a Robin Hood multiplayer game with a Game of Thrones vibe.
Great. Fun fact for you guys: he's called Robin Hood because he's Robin and he has a hood.
I didn't know that.
So how's Mass Effect going for everybody?
Yeah, so
let's go into Mass Effect. Wait, we just switched roles. Usually I'm the one who causes the transition.
We just had the longest, most complete discussion about Hood on the World Wide Web right now. So
unless Min-Max does the deepest dive on Hood, Outlaws, and Legends, then that is never going to be topped.
That would. Can we just talk about how bad that title is again? Like, speaking of bad game titles, Hood, Outlaws, like
you're kind of backed into a corner when you pick Robin Hood as your IP.
Yeah, out of like the subtitle Outlaws and Legends.
You're not gonna like fucking throw a bone to like Beastie Boys and call it like Robin and Stealin', although that'd be really cool, right? I would love that.
Just call it Robin Hood the game.
Yeah, well, that's the game. The definitive approach to Robin Hood, everyone. We found it.
To be honest,
the game.
To be honest, I can kind of, when you're using an IP, a popular IP like Robin Hood, you're kind of taking a gamble by not calling it Robin Hood, but by just calling it Hood, they're kind of taking a gamble. So I can kind of respect that much at least.
During the reveal trailer, I was like during the reveal trailer, I was getting more and more hyped about it because I was like, "There's no way this is a Robin Hood game. There's no way." And then as it goes on, you kind of realize like, oh, this is totally a Robin Hood game. And then they call it Hood, and I'm like, oh, that's like a wink and a nod. They were inspired by the premise to make this game. And then it wasn't until, I booted up the game and I was like, oh, you're called Robin. Like, that's when I was like, oh, so it's like absolutely a Robin Hood game. because they definitely don't wear that marketing on the sleeve. It definitely feels like the premise is like inspired by, but not blatantly a Robin Hood game.
I mean, we kind of joked about it way back when in a old podcast where we kind of just like joked about the fact that it's called Hood instead of Robin Hood. Like, kind of feels like one of those like mid 2010, early to mid 2010s games where, where like publishers and distributors and whatnot were afraid to like kind of call certain properties what they actually were. Like, you know, for the CW, you had Arrow instead of Green Arrow.
Yes.
And whatnot. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's a gritty Robin Hood.
Yeah.
I would have loved it if somehow they had bought the rights. Now all I can think about is Hood Outlaws and Legends, Sumo Studio buying the rights to Ryman and Stealing. And as you're coming into like the fucking title screen, like Ryman and Stealing for Beastie Boys goes in, I'm like, fucking, I'm buying the battle pass. I'm buying the season pass right now.
This game has the loudest PlayStation 5 UI music I have ever heard.
Yes. Oh my god, yes. It's not just me. I forgot about that. Like, so when you go, like, okay, so just for comparison, like when I go in Kingdom Hearts 3, it's like da 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 da, and it's like nice and peaceful. And when I moved a little bit to the left,
yeah, they definitely took a hint from the Christopher Nolan school of trailer music, and it's just like a loud boom, like immediately as soon as you even switch over to it.
Yeah. I'm sorry for everyone's ears, but yeah, that's the life.
Okay, we should move on though. So we've got 2 impressions this week. The next one is Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So I am the only one here who hasn't played it yet. I have it, but I haven't been able to jump in yet. So you guys are just gonna have to tread very, very carefully not to spoil anything.
I don't think we will touch on any real story spoilers because I mean, like, granted, this is my first Mass Effect. Like, I have never played a Mass Effect game before outside of, like, the demo for the 3rd game. I know.
Kids.
I will say though that I was pleasantly surprised with the quality of the story of the first game so far. Like I wasn't expecting it to be bad, but it's a hell of a lot more intriguing than I ever expected it to be.
I got 2 words for you, Mitch. Early
Suck it.
BioWare.
Yeah.
Wait, what words were you thinking, Seb?
Suck it, like DX.
Suck it. You were wrong. This game is great. No,
this game's
early
amazing.
BioWare. Early BioWare is the 2 words I was thinking of.
I will say that that's something that's really funny that I feel, because the overall plot itself, that's great, you know, like amazing even. But the dialogue, I've noticed that the characters just seem to repeat a lot of the stuff over and over again. Like there was there's this one scene early into the game where the Captain Anderson or whatever, he's like, this character is this is what he wants, this is why he's doing it, and then some other like, this is what the character has, this is what he wants, this is why he's doing it, and then they just keep repeating the same points in the dialogue over and over again, and I'm like, is that like a you know, just an issue with the script writing where they didn't intend for dialogue choices to go together, or like,
I think it's definitely meant for you to like pick your path and go through it, but BioWare didn't account, I think, for people who are like, I want to hear everything this person has to say.
That's absolutely the case. I think also it's helpful to realize, look how big this carrot is.
Okay, that one's going in the intro.
Oh Jesus!
That was my top tier ADHD moment. All right,
that wasn't funny at all, but
what I was gonna say.
Oh God.
Is that this was early on in choice-based games, I think, at least for like AAA choice-based games, right? And so I think BioWare was still kind of rusty at that, and so we were still like, figuring things out on that one.
Yeah, I think this game, the first one, I'm assuming we're all playing the first one first, I would think, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It definitely, their visuals are great. Like they really remastered it. But it still shows its age a bit. The facial animation and the eyes are definitely outdated. Like they have weird faces and their eyes get really big. It definitely shows
the
the age.
eyes.
Yeah,
Can we
it's
talk
very
about the
creepy.
necks? Can we talk about the necks? You look
Yeah.
like, at least with FemShep, you look like a goddamn giraffe, and it's just fucking ridiculous.
I feel like that's always been the case throughout that series. Is Shepard has that like neck guard thing that goes up here, and if you or just see Shepard in their regular outfit, you're like, oh wow, that's just a misstep in the design there, as they were trying to account for the armor when they designed this character. Clearly,
The thing that I find, I was gonna say the thing that I find really funny about this game though, and I'm not sure if it's just because it's the remaster, but somehow the facial animations are still better than what was in Andromeda. Because at least in here, like, you know, like they're not great, but you know, at least like the characters aren't going like,
Oh yeah,
you know,
Drama
Right,
with their faces.
What I
but-
love even more, you guys must have seen the video on YouTube where it's like that in Mass Effect Andromeda, everyone's talking about the facial animations are so terrible, and one character literally just says, "Sorry, my face is tired."
yeah.
Something I just realized as well is that like they actually got like a you know, like a semi decent like a semi popular Hollywood actor to voice to voice that character. So I can just not the humiliation, but just imagine like being like a, you know, semi prolific Hollywood actor coming to a video game and your big contribution being, sorry, my face is tired.
Yeah.
In terms of the combat, it's pretty standard third person shooter. It's not really anything revolutionary, but the animation though when you take cover is very janky. He does like this weird crab walk. It's definitely...
have you seen the sprint animation?
Yeah.
Like
it doesn't last long either.
It's really tricky to get cover, and I'm glad it's not just me. I've been seeing more and more that it's not just me. I thought I was bad at the game, but it turns out that the game is bad at being a game. In that context,
I played
overall, by the way, I'm like 5 hours in. I'm just about to like leave the first major area of the game. I'm absolutely loving my time. So most of the things I'm going to say here are just minor little gripes. But yeah, definitely one of them is besides the facial animations and the size of FemShep's neck, is that is just that the cover system's a little wonky. I presume that's better in 2, and because it's made more as a cover shooter, but at least it's there and the combat feels decent. Like it's not great,
bad.
Yeah, it's decent.
It's solid. It's solid.
I played 2 and 3 like probably about 6 times. Like just went, instead of doing like the trilogy playthrough, I would just play 2 and 3. Because every time I've tried to play Mass Effect 1, I just give up after about an hour because the combat was so different and just so bad. Because when they moved to 2, they did exactly that. It became a cover-based shooter. But in 1, it was very much more of just like an RPG where you just happen to have a gun that you were pointing at people to do your attacks.
Right.
And since they've adapted the combat of 2 to be in 1, not like completely adapted it because you still can't press X to go into cover. But the fact that the shooting has a reticle that's not a diamond is great. And the fact that it essentially turns Mass Effect 1 into a cover-based shooter, which has made it a lot more enjoyable for me to get through because I was, I wanted to know about the story. I wanted to know about these characters and how these characters I knew from Mass Effect 2 got together in the first place. But I never made it that far because the moment I had to go down onto a planet and shoot at things, I was like, this is just the worst. I can't do it.
I maybe this is a hot take, but I don't understand people who think Mass Effect 1 is the best of the trilogy. I don't understand people who think that of Mass Effect 3 either, but I like that. To me, like Mass Effect 1 is so much jank, and like you can love jank and that's fine. Like you can love a game for its flaws and bugs, maybe if it's not to the level of Cyberpunk, but like I digress. But like I think the level that Mass Effect 1 had, I understand people having a fondness for it, but like the Mako stuff, the combat stuff, the way that it was balanced, Obviously, some of the facial animations and some of the graphics and stuff that hadn't completely aged very well. Like, to me, it's so clear that Mass Effect 2 is the best of the trilogy, and that to me, saying Mass Effect 1 is better than 2 is like saying Kingdom Hearts 1 is better than Kingdom Hearts 2. Like, that to me, that's not even a comparison. Like, they're two, and that's not to say, at least in this case, with Mass Effect 1, it's a great game, and I don't think it's terrible or anything like that. I just think Mass Effect 2 is such a big overall improvement that it's hard to deny that it's the better game. I don't think Mass Effect 1's terrible, but Mass Effect 2 to me is just so clearly better, and I don't understand people who...
No, I don't have all the information,
Right.
but what I relate that to is like The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, where everyone always says The Godfather Part 2 again, but like
Again with the Godfather comparison. It's the third episode in a row.
I know.
Somebody made James an offer and he couldn't refuse.
Exactly. I like those movies, but like everyone always says The Godfather Part 2 is the best one, hands down, and everything. I appreciate that point of view, but I think I prefer The Godfather Part 1 more, just because it starts off from a clean slate. It's like it's the original story, it's the genesis.
I definitely agree with that. Like, I think like if we're tilted back to video games for a second, like Batman Arkham Asylum, I love that game. And in some ways, like, prefer it over the other ones just because of, like, it's the first game, it's the smallest in scope, and it's the most focused one of the bunch. Like, it's a nice linear contained story, and sometimes, like, I just prefer it for that. Because, like, before, like, it's one of those things where it's like, like, you look back on the good old days before everything became all about, oh, I've got to stop, Scarecrow from flooding the whole city with fear toxin, and oh, there's this Arkham Knight character who definitely isn't the person from the comics we're all thinking he is, but the simplicity of that first game is probably what sells it for me the most. And like I can understand your point there, James, for sure. Just with like the nostalgia, I guess you could say, for the first one.
Sure.
Yeah, and I definitely don't have any nostalgia for Mass Effect 1 because this is my first time making it further than an hour and a half into it. And I will say I'm really enjoying my time with it. And really enjoying the story and the characters. And there's something about it that is so charming in that I'm able to finally get a more realized glimpse into why people loved old BioWare so much. Because by the time I got into BioWare games in this series, it was because of Mass Effect 2 and Dragon Age 2. So they were already well-established franchises, and as a developer, and getting to see this remastered game that looks gorgeous. I understand it still shows its age in some places, but the environments look amazing. That they absolutely did a great job with the environments, especially the very first area that you visit. But it's nice to have a remaster like this show a game in probably the way they really intended it to be, for all intents and purposes. And it's given me a new appreciation for it. And I'm excited to be able to experience it again, because it's not often you get to experience something for the first time in a franchise you've played a bunch of games in. So I'm really happy with this remaster and being able to finally have it click for me, even though they had to, overhaul the whole thing.
I want to say too that I got super emotional at the beginning of this. I was yelling in victory. My partner doesn't play a ton of video games, and she's seen other people play Mass Effect, has heard about Mass Effect, and just doesn't like the series. So I had a very serious think about whether we could continue our relationship after that. But we've gotten through our rough patch, so I mean, things are okay now. But I had to do a lot of soul searching. I was like, is this the person I want to... Anyway, but like, seriously, when that menu music came on and I heard that for the first time in like years, I was like, oh, like, I remember these feelings. I remember this fucking game. Like, I love this game with just about everything I have. Like, I have problems with it. I had problems with 1. I had problems with 3. 2 is a masterpiece. Don't come at me. And like, I just it all came back to me. And like when you have like, there's a big cinematic sequence towards the beginning of the game when you're coming into the first major area of the game. and like that just hit me too.
I had that with and don't laugh, but I had that with Modern Warfare 2 campaign remastered when that came out.
Yeah.
Because just because of the menu music, you know, like that game was a big part of my childhood, which probably says some things about me, because anyone who plays Call of Duty when they're in their childhood. But anyway, it just speaks to the sort of impact that music can have in that way.
It's always nice to see. What's really nice about remasters is being able to see a game exactly how you remember it from when you were younger. Because normally when you go back to play a game that you're like, man, I love this game, it's one of my favorites, can't wait to go back and re-experience it, and you're playing it going like, all right, so this isn't as epic as I remember, this isn't as big of a, it's not as gorgeous or amazing as I remember, these are clearly just polygons that barely resemble a human. But when a remaster comes out, it makes you feel like, because they put that new coat of paint on it, and you're like, wow, this looks exactly how I remember it. But you also have that validation of like, this is clearly modernized and looks great. And it's nice to have remasters capture those feelings
it's
that you had previously.
It's like that crazy thing with Spyro. The Spyro remasters, like those games are totally overhauled. They look like they look totally different to the original releases, but they somehow, like, you can play those games and it's like it's not, it doesn't look like a new coat of paint, it looks like the way you remember those games.
Exactly. Yeah. I was gonna say, if you think about those Spyro games right now in your head, the remasters probably look exactly like what pops into your head. And I think that's drawn that out of a lot of people too, because it's so nice if you go on like Twitter and pretty much any other site, seeing this excitement for Mass Effect again, like as if a brand new entry in the series had come out. Just seeing how excited everybody is about this franchise again is so nice to see.
I don't know how much we can speak about this, like, without, I'm not really sure if it classifies as a spoiler, but
I will be upset.
No, so something I've noticed across Twitter and certain like Discords and whatnot is that nobody seems to like Ashley in this game. What's up with that? Because like I'm like, hey, Ashley, because I'm like, I met her in the game. I've got like no background whatsoever. I'm like, hey, it's like, I like your character, I'm gonna keep you along. And then like once I stopped playing the game and got up to the part I needed to for the min-max deepest dive, I opened up Twitter and came to the Discord, and everyone's just suddenly talking about how much they hate Ashley. I'm like, why? Is it just something I missed, or
no? So it's something you haven't experienced yet, and it's something about her character that you find out later in the game. And she, according to some people, she progresses and gets better. I don't know for myself. I don't remember what she does, but she is supposed to be. She's one of those characters who is supposed to be a teaching moment for the player, I think. And I think she does a decent job, because I think BioWare was good at writing that dialogue. But anyway.
I just prefer having the alien companions. Like
I was gonna say the same thing. I like in these games, like I've noticed, like I really don't like if I'm thinking about my favorite characters from the series, I don't really have a strong attachment. I mean, not a fondness, because that's just mean, but like a huge attachment to any of the human characters. My favorite thing about this series are the alien companions and these new worlds and these new cultures that you experience.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, I think thanks to Twitter, I've had a couple of, like, one big thing spoiled for me for Ashley's character, which, like, I mean, it's like not one of those spoilers from like you're super bummed or whatever and don't want to play the game. Like, I'm still going to play the game, but I know something that happens. But I also saw this one sort of line that she says out of context, which, I mean, I'm sure even in context would sound pretty bad.
Nope, it's not good, Mitch. It's not good in context. It's not good out of context. Sorry, buddy. I know exactly what line you fucking mean, and it's not good.
So two things. They really changed the sound quality. Like, the guns sound way better in this game. Like, they really pack a punch, for sure.
Very loud in Mass Effect 1.
Yeah, very loud.
Very loud.
I had to turn my volume down. Like, I had it blasting, and all of a sudden the dialogue was quiet, and I turned the volume up, and then I started shooting the gun, and oh my god, my TV almost blew up.
It's like when fucking like in It's Always Sunny, right? And then it started blasting.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just me. Like, I keep clicking the middle button, thinking it's the map button, and I keep pulling my gun out.
Thank you. Oh my god, me too.
I didn't. So I uploaded the clip to Twitter, but like one time I was walking through like a populated area or whatever, like the Citadel, where like there were like civilians around, and I pulled out my guns and I didn't know how to put them back at the time, so I felt really awkward just having my character be the one just sort of like just to start holding his gun around. So then I started testing things out. I'm like, well, can I actually shoot in here? So I started shooting or whatnot, and like no one reacted. I'm like, oh, okay. So then I throw a grenade at the floor accidentally, and I'm like, and it's like one of those like detonating, like what the grenades that have to detonate, like you have to press a button. So, and I'm like, I tried going over to it. I've got the clip up on Twitter, but I tried to go over to it, see if I could pick it up. Couldn't do anything. So I'm like, okay, I'll just move on then. Then a cutscene triggered where like you and another character sort of walking up these steps, and just as the cutscene stops, you just like hear and see this big like explosion just happen in the background as they're walking away, and it was the funniest thing I've probably
I don't know
done
what it is.
so far.
I think I'm programmed to hit the square button for melee, and I keep pressing square, and it throws the mine. Like I think circle is the melee button, and I keep wasting all the mines. Like
I remember I remember like in the first level when they like sort of say, "Hey, press square to throw a grenade." I thought it would have like an arc, like it'd be one of those grenades where you'd have an arc. So I'm just like I sort of like aimed up into the sky. Then all I knew, my character just sort of like threw it directly like straight ahead, and I'm like, oh, that's gonna. I just wasted a grenade there. Thanks.
They throw everything at you at that beginning part too about how to play the game. Like it's just one after another. Like
there's no way to dismiss them.
You have a new wall of text while you're still trying to like, oh, I'm gonna try out the thing you just showed me.
Mitch, you can remove tutorials.
But like in game, no, but like in game.
Oh well,
like,
in game,
you, do what the prompt is saying. There's like they're there for a set amount of time. Like even if you do what the prompt says, the pop-up doesn't go away for some annoying reason.
I'm glad also I wasn't alone in that I had this moment where I thought this cool character was really cool at the beginning of the game, and I was like, boy, I sure hope nothing happens. And seconds later, so yeah, me, Mitch, and Marvel all had that fucking same. And I played the game before, and I totally forgot what happened to that character, and I was just like, damn, you hate to see it.
This game made me sad too, in a way that I was like, they don't make games like this as much anymore. Like how did we get from this and KOTOR and Dragon Age to Anthem?
I was thinking about, what I was thinking about was the one of the main hubs you have is just so, it's kind of like I can see where Disco Elysium kind of took some of its influences from Mass Effect because the way that this hub works is it doesn't seem big on the surface, but there's so many levels and layers and offshoots to paths, and it's just like everything is like, it just seems so new and good. It's one of the best hubs in video games, honestly.
Everything in this game just feels like quality. Like even a basic cutscene where you're talking to somebody and something happens, it's just high like it just looks really good. Like it for a game that came out in 2007, the
load times are great. It's like 10 seconds maybe for loading, and that includes if you're doing fast travel. The elevators were a big deal in Mass Effect 1 because they were so long and they went on forever. But basically, they just last as long as the conversation does, maybe plus a couple seconds. I never skip them because I'm like, I want to hear what people are saying.
Yeah.
And I don't mind like riding in an elevator for a few extra seconds after people are done talking. Like, that's fine.
No, it does get a little redundant because there's parts you have to go point A to point B like 5 times, and it does get a little. But it's not a big thing, but it's definitely a little.
Yeah, I have that.
Definitely a lot more sped up though.
Oh, definitely way better than it was. I remember that.
Just quickly, one thing I'll shout out about this game, which I love, like when RPGs and other games do this, is that the quests are never too they're never too long. Like I think something
where like Ghost of Tsushima, a few of its side missions just kept going on and on and on, and especially when they'd require you to travel to like different sides of the map just to like complete one objective or to find something, and it's like I mean, granted, I've only probably like done like 1 or 2 side quests in this game, but they both like haven't lasted longer than like 5-10 minutes tops. Like it's a side story. It's like it's neat. It's over quickly, so like I don't get distracted by like what's actually on hand.
I think it's all very well paced. Oh, sorry.
No, like you're right, exactly. Like it's well paced, and it never feels like, because that's the thing that I get annoyed about when you do certain side quests in games, is that like they just take far too longer than they ever need to be, and they just pad them out for who knows why.
You know, Mass Effect also does this really cool thing where you get a lot of your squad mates in a surprisingly short amount of time, and I didn't even remember that. And I don't know how RPGs follow that, but because I feel like a lot of RPGs, even Outer Worlds, which is a much more recent RPG, you don't get. They're pretty out.
I've probably played about like 5 hours, 5 to 8 hours of Outer Worlds, and I've probably only got like 1 or 2 companions. But maybe 3.
I mean, Outer Worlds is a little longer than Mass Effect. That's also another thing.
Yeah, true.
About, like, 30 hours. Like, Mass Effect's like 20, 25 maybe.
Yeah,
exactly.
I would say like third-person action games. This is like my favorite genre. Like in terms of just, I just loved RPGs where you get to pick dialogue and have all these choices, and I love the science fiction of it. I love everything about it. I know I'm a big Star Wars and a big Star Trek fan, so this is right up my alley. Like it's incredible. Like I really. Like this is what it reminded me of. I was like, wow, like I really want a game like this. Once I finish this trilogy, like I'm really gonna want another game like this at some point. So hopefully Starfield gets.
I recommend Andromeda, to be honest with you.
I beat Andromeda.
Oh, sorry,
which I actually liked, but
it did do it again. Problem. Why not?
I literally like had a moment where I saw this character and I was like, holy shit, yes! Like I was like, I'm so excited to see you again. It feels like it's been forever, and I think I went back through the series about 3 or 4 years ago, so it hasn't been for as long for me as it been for a lot of other people. But the shitty thing was, I did it on PC, and when I bought Mass Effect 3, I think by the time I played it or something, Origins had started making some noise or something like that. Something had happened. I don't remember what, but I lost my save or couldn't transpose it to Mass Effect 3. I was so pissed because I had spent hours on Mass Effect 1 and 2. So now I can finally do it and have the same Shepard all the way through. Because when I played 1, I don't think I ever played 2 after that. I think I dropped out of video games around the time 2 and 3 came out.
So go ahead, Mitch.
No, I was just gonna say, like, real quickly before we want to wrap up and move on. What class have you guys run with for your Shepard? Because I've gone for the Infiltrator. Because I'd say snipers are probably the most effective weapon in the game, just for how precise they are. But Alex, what have you sort of run with for class?
I went with a soldier. Just because this is my first time playing this game, playing Mass Effect 1. So I just kind of wanted to have a all-around simplistic character for me to experience the whole thing with. I normally lean in, like in 2 and 3, I normally lean to like biotics or infiltrator, things like that. But for this one, since it's my first time running through the game, I wanted to just stick with the traditional vanilla class, just so I can experience the game.
For me, I did soldier as well. I typically enjoy like simpler classes. Like I like being the Viking type of class that runs into things, or the soldier class that just shoots shit. Like I never like get in the gadget kind of like barrier like up yourself kind of character. I don't like that. I usually just like being the up front.
Yeah, I was about to do soldier as well, but I'm like, I don't like. I wanted to find something that has that balance of, like, as you said, like the all-rounder, but also, has some interesting quirks to it. Like, isn't just like the basic shooty gun type of character. But I'd say that's why I went more towards the Infiltrator, just because it's essentially like a second class soldier, if that's the right term for it. But like, it's essentially got like all the basic traits of the soldier, while also, like having some more technical leaning abilities. and
Yeah,
stuff.
I picked the Vanguard, so I went with the one that has biotics and weaponry. I kind of just wanted to mix it up every now and then. It is
Yeah.
kind of fun to like use that weapon wheel and use the sort of I don't know what they call it, but powers wheel or whatever. I
Yeah.
don't remember what they call it, biotic.
Yeah.
And just to kind of like switch between those, so doing like a pull and then shooting some guns or whatever.
Yeah.
So I found that rewarding, but yeah, it's standard combat.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not sure if it's just like this game or if it's a problem that the whole series has, but I've rarely ever found the biotics in the game to be that accurate, because like you can still target enemies, but say if like they're hiding behind cover or something, it'll hit the cover, not the enemy. Like it won't lock, and like if an enemy's moving, it's not gonna lock onto the enemy. They're gonna just shoot exactly where you targeted to. So
it depends on which one you're using. I think if you're using throw, I don't know. I haven't gotten to do this in Mass Effect 1 yet. But if you're using throw, you can actually like angle it to the if they're behind cover, aim it to like the top right of them, and it actually curves around the cover and hits them.
Okay.
Like you can do that with some of them.
Yeah, I've mainly been using like some of the more like tech-based powers, like you've got like the sabotage, the shield overload, like those.
Yeah,
they're effective when they work, but they're not very accurate a lot of the time. Yeah.
So so before we move on, I got 2 quick questions for everybody. Do you guys plan on binging the whole series, like back to back to back, or are you gonna space it out?
If I can,
Space it out.
if I can. It kind of depends how long I retain my attention towards the games. Like because I tend to have a habit of sort of like getting really into games for a good while and then just sort of hopping off of them after a while. So I at the very least definitely want to beat the first Mass Effect, in line with the deepest dive, which I think, the final episode is going to be like in like 1st of June or something, or mid-June.
Yeah.
But as for 2 and 3, I definitely want to play them and get through them, but I don't know how fast that will be. Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be my summer game probably. Like I certainly see myself like playing this throughout the summer and finishing it hopefully before.
It came out at a great time.
Like,
perfect time.
I don't have anything else I'm looking forward to right now. So and it just depends. I could sit here and tell you I'll space it out, but I know the moment I boot up Mass Effect 2 that it's over. Like Mass Effect 2 and 3 are one big game to me. But so I know once I start 2, it's like cool. I'm just gonna see this through.
And do you guys play Shepard as like a nice guy, or do you guys more direct? Or you kind of
I don't care like what media studies says about violence in video games. I can't be a dick to people in video games. I have a hard enough time doing it in real life, right?
Yeah.
So Paragon is basically me. I mean, I will do renegade stuff every now and then if like there's like people are like, well, that's against the law. I'm like, I don't give a shit if that's against the law. Like that's not right. Like, the law is wrong. I am right. But like generally,
something I found, and I mean it's not just this game, like a bunch of other choice-based games do this, but like say for instance when you're talking to the council or whatever, all of the dialogue choices essentially lean towards the same moral stance that your character does, where it's like it's like you disagree with them. There's no really like sort of in between options where it's like like where your character has some nuance to is what he's saying. It's like I agree with what you're saying, but also like there's I get like, it would have been too like a bit a bit harder to write in and whatnot, but like it's a big game, don't get me wrong, but I feel like some certain situations like that where you can both agree with what they're saying or sort of like understand their point of view but also disagree with them would have gone a long way into like fleshing out your character build a bit more, because like it's kind of annoying like because like in situations like that you have like the option of most dickish, semi dickish, or least dickish. Like there's no
even in
it just comes down to tone.
Yeah, but there are like serious moral decisions you have to make that are and the right answer is not always cut and dry. Like
exactly.
I definitely have already had a couple of side missions where the answer was not cut and dry. Certainly at least once.
Yeah.
I think also, I mean, like, you know, like it's well known at this point, but like it's just annoying when the dialogue wheel says one thing and your character says something completely different.
That's
the
Bioware.
worst. It's the worst. It's a terrible trend. I really hope
Yeah.
they don't do it for any of their future
I
titles.
really got annoyed because I've already had a couple situations where I do one response and then Shepard's like, "Fuck that shit," and I was like, "That's not what I was saying. That's not what I was saying at all."
Yeah,
the one. Sorry, I was gonna say the one
Yeah.
thing that I think Mass Effect Andromeda's dialogue system did really well is highlighting with the dialogue wheel what type of dialogue answer would be given, like with the little symbols, and like, you know, like this answer is going to be, you know, like more aggressive, this answer is going to be more diplomatic and nuanced and whatnot. Like, I really appreciated that, you know, that visual cue of saying like what type of tone that dialogue choice would be. Like, even if it reads all right, that symbol there kind of shows, okay, even though I'm picking this option, he might say it in a way that comes off like he's being a dick.
Yeah.
I do.
Exactly.
I kind of love the idea, though, of you know, there's some situation where somebody says to Shepard, "Oh my God, we need to save this planet from the Zargons or whatever," and then you choose the dialogue option that says, "Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea," and Shepard just says, "Nah, fuck that shit."
I mean, it definitely has moments like that where Shepard is, you know, talking to people and they're just, you know, making good conversation, and Shepard is just kind of like, you know, your option is like, well, that sounds interesting, so you pick that, and Shepard, instead of going, that sounds interesting, tell me more, he'll say something like, well, you're kind of a weirdo, aren't you? Like, it's just like this really out there stuff where it's like, that's not what I wanted to say at all.
I will also say I put a lot of points into charm because I'm a person who loves like talking and instead of killing people. I know, hot take, right? But like so I've already got a lot of points in charm and stuff like that, and I will say it's sometimes not very satisfying because you'll just make a 1-sentence or 2-sentence argument look like, oh, I never thought about it like that. I guess you're right. I'll go abandon my evil ways now. I'm like, I don't know, like this isn't Kingdom Hearts. You can't get away with stuff like that. Like,
there was a side quest I did where essentially like I was faced with this moral dilemma of essentially like a husband trying to like recover his dead wife's body.
Yeah,
like
that's the one I was talking about where there's no real good, clear-cut answer.
Exactly, and it's like the path I went with, where, you know, like it. Essentially, the decision I went with, that at first the husband was like, no, it's like, I want my wife, and then I think it was Ashley or someone. She says like one line to him, and he's like, okay, I guess you're right. Keep on going. You guys have a good day. Essentially, like how it ended, and I'm like,
understandable. Have a good day. Have have my wife support.
Right.
Whatever.
Exactly. Understandable. Have a good day. And I'm like,
exactly.
I wish every moral dilemma in the game was that easy, but no, it may be easy gameplay standpoint, but like, you know, from writing, it was like, not super satisfying.
Yeah. We should probably move on, honestly.
I do have one more
I
question.
don't think we said enough about Mass Effect. I disagree.
I've had there's one question that I've had in the bank since we pretty much started this segment. For you, Alex, that I just really wanted to touch on. So you mentioned that like you've played Mass Effect 2 and 3 like 5 times, and you never made it through the first one before now?
Never.
Does it
once.
That's the thing I've heard of. Like, I've heard of multiple people doing that same thing, just skipping one and jumping on it too. Is this 2 a good entry point? Do you feel like you're missing something?
It can be, just because they included the Mass Effect like interactive comic book thing at the beginning of it. I think it was DLC way back in the day, but you could essentially just make all the major choices for the first game in about a 5 to 10 minute interactive comic book thing, and it like, I don't feel like admittedly I'm only about 5 hours into Mass Effect 1, but I still feel like I get the gist. I'm just getting a lot of the nuance from what I knew from the make your quick decisions before you jump into 2. And I think 2 is a really good starting point, just due to how much of an improvement the gameplay was compared to 1. Now, I don't think there's real, if this was my first experience with Mass Effect, I wouldn't have done that because 1 is that much improved. But if this were 2015, I'd say, yeah, just play 2.
Yeah.
Alex, you haven't even gotten to the fucking Mako yet, so I mean, like, just
I
imagine.
have actually, and if that's an improved Mako, then I don't ever want to see the original Mako.
Oh, that story's for you, my friend.
Yeah,
I do not approve that, but yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
That is
Jane-
really.
Go ahead.
I was just that is a really cool idea of having like a recap, like an interactive recap thing like that.
Yeah,
They-
I think they can even do
they
that in
have-
3 as well.
They have them for both 2 and 3 in this game as well. Yeah, if
Mhm.
players just want to skip right to any one of those games, they have those like recap comics
I
or whatever.
will strongly caution, especially new players, against doing that.
Yeah.
Though, because your
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
final battle
But it is
is-
really cool that those interactive comics not only recap the
agreed.
story for you, but you get to make major decisions in them.
Yeah.
So obviously they're very spoiler heavy, but you still get to
Yeah.
have the ripples of consequences, even if you just start with 3.
So yeah, hey Mitch,
Yeah.
you know what's next, right?
I believe I do. I've studied hard for this moment. I'm ready. Hit me.
Okay, the next segment in this podcast is a word from our sponsor. This episode of the PSPremiere Podcast is sponsored by Disco Elysium, available everywhere except Australia. Actually, hang on. Hello, Australia.
Yes, hello, this is Australia.
Yeah, could you do me a favor and allow the release of Disco Elysium real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Great, thanks. Disco Elysium now available all over the world. You're welcome, Australia. Yeah, so we finally made it to the news. It's been a long road to get here, but this week Sony revealed the first custom colors for new PlayStation 5 controllers. And they are Cosmic Red and Midnight Black.
Can I just say quickly that the cosmic red kind of looks more like a cosmic maroon?
Yeah, it's
red?
like this
What,
more
maroon?
burgundy-ish color.
What
Yeah,
a
it looks more like a pink to me.
Yeah.
Really? Like a
Uh,
dark
like-
pink?
No, like a light pink. I mean, let me find it. What do you
Pink.
guys? Hang on.
Yeah,
Why do I always see different colors than you? I swear
I-
to God, like,
it just doesn't look red to me at all. It
It's-
definitely leans to like a purplish maroonish.
Yeah, it
See
looks
that.
like closer to like maroon or maroon. How
Oh,
you guys
yeah.
say
what
it.
you're
Yeah,
telling
that's
me
that's
is that
definitely
they do not work with Crayola here.
that's definitely not maroon. That
Oh,
is
you're right. That looks like a hot pink. It looks
Yeah,
kind of like a
exactly.
hot pink.
well, I think it's the lighting of the picture they took, too.
Yeah, true. Because like it looks completely different in like promotional photos. Like,
Yeah.
with the background.
'Cause I'm
Look,
looking
opposed to,
at
like,
I'm looking at the promotional
photos.
picture, like just went in front of a white background and it's red.
I
It's red all the
I
way.
want to point out here that Alex should be getting dividends, royalties for this because this looks exactly like our goddamn logo and the colors that we're using. So Alex should be getting a bunch of royalties, and it's a shame that he's not. Shame on you,
Yeah.
Sony.
I just want to
Get a
say
box.
I just want to say rest in peace to the white controllers because no one's gonna buy those anymore. So
Yeah.
rest in peace.
To be fair, I do have like some, like still some appreciation for like the good old white controller here, just because of the simplicity
Yeah.
and the fact that it's the first one. But I mean, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of weird because I did the same thing with the PS4 because I got both a white and a black controller. And I stuck with a white controller for the longest of times just because, like it was white. But then after a while, I'm like, I kind of want to go back to like the OG controller or whatnot. But
No,
I-
I can't relate to that at all. Once I got the new colors, I never looked back.
I think
Sorry, I was gonna say one thing. I do think I'd probably end up buying the black over the red anyways.
Me too.
Just because, like, as cool as the red looks, it looks more like a novelty than something
Yeah.
I'd actually want to play with. Whereas, like, the black, I'm like, yeah, I can easily see myself playing with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I
Like,
really Red. I can imagine myself. I already have 2 controllers, so I don't really need to get another one. But if I ever
Yeah.
did for some reason, like
Yeah.
I think I'd get the Cosmic Red. I like it's a bit more flamboyant and like
Yeah.
interesting, I guess, as opposed to just having another black controller to me. But
right. Yeah,
I
like
get that.
like two things. Like it makes me want the PS5 to be black. Like it just looks better in black and blue, honestly, than
Well,
white. It just does for me.
I will protest
Go to
that.
D brands.
I will protest that point though. Like I prefer the Midnight Black controller to the white controller, but the black and white console has kind of grown on me. I don't think I'd like a
Fine
black
with
one.
me. It's just I like black better.
look,
I
I
think,
respect
like-
as much as the next Yu-Gi-Oh fan. Okay, I don't know that we need to build a console in his name. Okay, that's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
exactly. But I have no reason to buy this. Like I have 2 controllers. This is a novelty. Plus, I'd rather get the blue one anyway. Like when that ever comes out, I'm not crazy. I've never been crazy about red. And black's
Or
kind
pink.
of bland. Like generally, I prefer like more colorful. Like I like when I had a PS4, I had a purple controller. I had like the light blue one and things like that. I had always the very colorful one.
Do you know what I never understood? Was people who bought those like for the PS3, those see-through plastic controllers.
Yeah,
Like
that,
Terrible. Those
See,
are
the thing is,
terrible.
I've never understood that
nostalgia.
because see with like if it's like a car, right, and you know how they have like you get like the Corvettes and they've got like a glass or plastic pane over the engine, so you can see this
Yeah.
nice engine cover. That makes sense to me because that looks nice. Circuit
Yeah.
boards do not look nice.
it's nostalgia because that's how like a lot of people had like the Nintendo 64 controller like that, and people just like that look, and
Yeah.
people had their Game Boys like that. So people, I think people are just accustomed to that look.
Consoles I can somewhat understand because like especially if they're like a box shape. But a controller which is, often got like, like angles and sort of dimension to it and handles, it just looks ugly and gross and uneven, and like I'm not sure what the hell's quite happening. If like DualSense especially, like if this was like
Yeah.
translucent, I'd be like, this is the ugliest looking controller I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like being able to see the rumble actually happening on the interior
Yeah.
of the controller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, it doesn't help that the plastic they use is often like super cheap feeling.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
that's-
like Sony never makes those particularly. I think it's usually like a
No.
third party developer
Yeah.
or creator or whatever that
True,
does them.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
like Mad Cats, are they still around?
I don't know.
Probably.
I loved Mad Cats when I was younger. Yeah,
Me
like they
too.
made such great like GameCube and I think Wii controllers too. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. So
I like the standard black and white controller. Like these 2 controllers don't really do anything for me, I guess. Especially if I'm not super big on having a bunch of different color controllers because it feels weird that they don't match my console. But
that's fair.
I only have the 1 controller, so I guess these just don't really do anything for me. But I think if I had to pick one, I'd probably get the maroon colored controller because the black on black feels weird to me, knowing that if you look at the white one, that's how the color is divvied up on it, and it just feels like it's got this weird lining separating that just has black separating black on black.
I swear to God, that's not maroon. After we're done here, I'm gonna check the color code for maroon. I'm gonna go in Photoshop.
I'm calling up Crayola. I'm in fact putting Crayola into my speed dial for future conversations.
I think I'm just accustomed to black because every PlayStation console has pretty much been black for the last 20 years, besides the PS1. So I'm just accustomed to that look, and like my whole PC setup is black and blue, so it fits my aesthetic,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Getting beat up because you're a nerd.
Yeah.
Well, that was a pretty good one.
Online boy.
Thank you.
Okay, but more PlayStation news this week. Also, Herman Hulst, the head of Worldwide Studios currently, told Wired, sorry, told Wired that there are currently 25 first-party titles in development for PS5, and nearly half of them are new IPs. He's probably counting games that are in like very early stages of
Absolutely.
what is it that they call it? That stage?
Development.
Prototype?
Pre-production.
Pre-production.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
alpha-
wouldn't expect like 25 games in the next 2 years.
No, this is like the whole generation.
Not to mention, like, I wouldn't be surprised if a decent few of them would be like your indie titles, like your Stray and your like although like essentially like all of the titles that no one really cared for in the PlayStation big state of play they had last.
Excuse me, I like Stray.
Well, Stray's not
No,
first
it's
party,
like-
right?
Oh, are they first parties? Or
I don't
oh
think
wait, no,
so.
yeah, sorry, it wasn't. They are
I just
first
can't
parties.
see all 25 of these being AAA blockbuster
No.
Sony style games.
I would-
There's definitely probably indie titles, passion projects, smaller scope games, and things like that. in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I said last week, I know Sony's focusing more on the bigger games, but I don't think they're just gonna abandon their indies and their smaller AA or
I mean,
like smaller like
Yeah.
Astrobots or something like that. I don't think they're gonna abandon that.
I mean,
Yeah.
again, to go back to the state of play last June, they had even if they weren't first party directly titles, they still had a decent amount of the titles were on display were indie titles, or like at least like AA at the most. But like, so I don't think I think it's unreasonable to like for people to suddenly go, oh, Sony only wants like their like Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima and Spider-Man type games. Because like one, that's just not effective business wise. Like they'll want to have as much diversity in their selection as possible. But two, I mean, like they're not just going to abandon it all of a sudden because we've had a few legitimately great, if not amazing, games that have had that budget. So we're just going to make we're going to put more money into all of our projects, which
That honestly
business-wise,
doesn't sound too far
best.
off.
I mean, like.
Yeah.
Business wise though, like I mean, like I can't speak whether this is the truth or not, but like I'd imagine business wise, if Jim Ryan suddenly went, hey, we're gonna like make every single game we're developing and we're gonna give it a AAA budget like the size of Spider-Man or The Last of Us or something, that's not that's some pretty bad business moves.
No, I know.
Right there.
You are right. Like they need to have a diverse portfolio, and they will recognize that. But I reckon that they're seeing the big AAA single player games doing well, and they're like, okay, let's make as many of these as possible.
Absolutely, but like I think at the same time, I mean, realistically, I'd probably expect like a 2 to 3 AAA to AA sort of split between PlayStation Studios titles. But like then again, like we've still got the the non-first party titles that are also in here. So I'd say like I wouldn't be surprised if like majority of first party titles are AAA, but like they're kind of supplementing that with like sort of other studios that are releasing exclusive for Sony's platform. Like they're kind of supplementing it with that. I don't really know though.
Yeah, I mean it's curious because first party being the key word, like because most of Sony money is going to be coming from third party deals that they make, like Call of Duty and like Final Fantasy 16. So I'm curious, like where these first party titles are coming from, what studios are making these games, because like we already know like God of War and Horizon and all those games, but I'm just curious, like Gran Turismo. I'm curious, like is somebody making like a Sackboy game, another one, or is somebody making like Ape Escape or something smaller? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm really curious.
I wouldn't be entirely surprised by a Sackboy sequel. That game was good.
That game was great. Yeah, I really liked it.
It did not get the respect it deserved on our Game of the Year episode. I stand by that.
Had any of us even played it at the time?
I mean,
apart from me,
I hadn't
no.
played it at the time. I hadn't played it at the time, so yeah.
I was the only one, which is why I don't think it made it on our top 10.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was in my top 10. Personally.
It was on my top 10 as well. I think it was number 8 for me or 7.
I think what it was is that it just came out with like all these big, Demon Souls and Miles Morales, and it came out at $60, and a lot of people were just like, I don't know if I want to buy a Sackboy game for $60, but
70.
Yeah.
It came out for 70.
no, it was 60.
For me, it was 70. I had to pay fucking 70
Really?
quid for that.
No,
game.
mine was 60.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. Well, anyway,
Did you get scammed?
I guess so.
Damn you, Jim Ryan, scamming people from Scotland
But
specifically.
anyway, more Ratchet and Clank news this week. Some previews. So Seb and I, we haven't watched or read any previews for the game. Seb because he doesn't want to, and me because I forgot. But yeah, everyone else, you guys all check these out.
Yeah.
So any standout new information or impressions?
I think, I mean, it's really just more of the same, but I feel like I primarily watched the IGN preview, but they went into detail about the this one set piece level where you're playing as Rivet and you've got Clank on your back, and you sort of like, it's like kind of like this big sort of like on rails almost set piece where you've got this giant robot. Like it was in the trailers, but essentially they kind of talk about how like there's a little mini arc in that set piece that's like really touching, surprisingly enough, where essentially this robot's called the Fixer or something, and his objective is to fix things, but then he himself is broken, so he gets into this whole existential crisis, like, well, if the Fixer is broken and can never be repaired, then what's the point in living, essentially? Like, why doesn't everything just be broken forever, like the full Neon Genesis Evangelion type of shit there. And then by the end of the set piece, essentially, like, Clank especially like sort of like talks to the robot and sort of says like, hey, like, I'm still, like, I may be broken, like, like I may have like got an arm missing or something, but I'm still here, like I'm still fighting and still living. And then like it's I'm probably butchering what they actually say in the game, but it's a really touching moment the way they described it in the preview, and I'm like, this is only like one set piece as well. So if they've got either multiple of those kind of like, moments of the same quality and heart throughout the entire game, then I'm all the way in.
I think Mitch is accurately depicting this. So I watched the Game Informer preview and the IGN, also a brief interview with one of the people behind Ratchet and Clank.
Marcus Smith?
At Insomniac. I don't remember.
I know, because I know he did a thing with Game Informer.
Yeah, it was Game Informer, so it was probably him. But yeah, I totally agree with Mitch. Like, that was a bit of a gut punch. Like, I was looking at the dialogue, and I like heard what Rivet said, and I heard like what Clank said, and like I really related to that. And I was like, I can't fucking believe I'm like getting gut punched by a game about fucking guns that send out other guns, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
So it was great. These previews, I didn't need them, but they were still, I mean, just another showcase of how impressive it is. And you look at the comments. Look, IGN and Game Informer, especially IGN, have some really toxic comments. But this has to be one of the most positive spaces for video games I think I've ever seen in an IGN comment. Almost all of the top voted comments were like, I'm buying this day one. This is Insomniac. They always do great things. This looks amazing. This looks fantastic.
Yeah.
This actually looks like it's worth $70, etc., etc.
Yeah. I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks back when we last talked about Ratchet and Clank, but I think I'm definitely much more inclined to buy this game because the gameplay just looks that much better than the 2016 game. Because, like I mentioned it last time, but like, in the 2016 games, very few of the weapons felt like they had any impact. And like it felt like the first couple of Borderlands games where the weapons didn't have much impact. So like, well, cosmetically and mechanically they may be really cool. It just wasn't that satisfying feeling-wise gameplay. But, like here, you've got, the zoomed-in camera over their shoulder, so like sort of like pulls you into the experience even more. You've got the DualSense, you've got recoil and everything, and
the gunplay just looks so much more involved here that I don't know. I don't know what else I can say really, but like I'm in love with what I've seen so far.
I can't
Like, the
wait to try
gameplay.
that pinball gun.
Mm,
The pinball gun looks really fun, and that moss gun that like
Yes.
turns
I
them
was
into
just
like
thinking
a
about
tree
that.
and like plants them in the ground. That looks
Yeah.
really fun.
Yes.
yeah.
I really enjoyed what I saw about that set piece as well. I love 3D platformers. And this game looks just so polished.
Yeah.
Graphically, it's gorgeous. I really enjoyed like that. I was immediately hooked when they were showing the rail grinding sequence, and Rivet grapples onto like a grappling hook and swings onto a wall run and then jumps onto a rail.
Yeah.
That sold me immediately for how this game looks in terms of its platforming.
I think one point that I know the IGN preview mentioned, which I'm kind of a little bit iffy on, but like I'll probably turn around by the time it releases, is the fact that so essentially progression and weapons and everything between Ratchet and Rivet are the same. So
Yeah, that
like
was really
it's not a case of, you know, it's like, oh, Rivet has, you know, these weapons that are exclusive to her, and Ratchet has these weapons. Like, they both share the same loadout, the same everything, progress is shared across them. Like, I mean, we saw this in the State of Play where Rivet's like, hey, I don't remember having all these bolts in my account, and they sort of explain it with a quick throwaway line. But it's kind of disappointing that like there's not going to be much difference between the two. But at the same time, I like, you know, as the IGN preview mentioned again, it's just for consistency, especially like for, you know, for players. So it's not like the DMC5 thing where like you have to get accustomed to like a new style of gameplay every single level almost, just because you're constantly like pinballing between them all.
Mechanically, it's a little disappointing, but I also have to say mechanically, it's a little understandable, right? Because if you had to suss out
Like,
every different, you know, weapon that you had between the two, like it might get confusing for players. Like I understand trying to streamline it, even if it makes for a slightly less varied experience.
Yeah, like imagine trying to switch between Peter Parker Spider-Man and Miles Morales Spider-Man in the same game. That would be a little difficult to keep track of. I know the muscle memory for one of them would kick in while I'm playing the other, so I totally get it from a technical standpoint.
Yeah, now Alex, are you a Ratchet and Clank fan?
This is actually I am picking up Ratchet and Clank. This is going to be the first one I've ever played.
You're in similar company, I think.
I have not played many myself.
But yeah, because the thing is, right, even as someone who only played the 2016 game, and hasn't played any others, like we've had 2 Spider-Man games in between that and this. Even as someone who's only played that 2016 game, it feels like I've been starved for Ratchet. Like it feels like this has been a long time coming. I can only imagine what the wait has been like for people who enjoyed the PS3 games and sort of didn't count 2016 as a proper element of the franchise, because like Insomniac's put out a lot of stuff that's not Ratchet and Clank in the last 10 years.
I wonder if it has anything to do with Rivet as well. It feels like a fresh new face for the franchise.
Yeah,
because I everything I know about Ratchet and Clank is surface level. I know what the 2 characters look like. I know that they are the people you play as in every game. They're on the cover of every game because it's their game, and now you've got a new main character, and I'm like, all right, well now you're switching something up.
Because that's the thing. Like, there have been other long back season stuff in the other Ratchet and Clank games, but they've never been playable as far as I'm aware. This is the first time, discounting as far as I'm aware, this is the first time, apart from the 4-player game All for One, that anyone besides Ratchet and Clank has been properly playable like this.
Yeah. I mean, Ratchet's been around for like 20 years, like consistently. There's a ton of games in the series, so I think they were always gonna make another one anyway, like because 2016 was such a big success. I think we're always gonna get Ratchet games no matter what. I just was one of those series that has long legs. So
absolutely, it's kind of like their thing that they always fall back on. Like they try all these different things, but Ratchet and Clank is the one thing that people, the actual Insomniac fans, keep coming back for more Ratchet and Clank.
And I
so
think what's pulled me into it is I get that the game is centered around different guns, and once you get to like 2016, and I'm sure that this is me simplifying the series and not really fair to it, but you think about like they've got like what 10 games in the series, and you're like, how many different ways can you have? He's got different guns that do crazy things, and that's a gimmick that like I know it can be different guns every time, but the well probably dries up a little bit. And I feel like for this one, having a new character whose design is great, and having a new gimmick in the what are they called, the rift jumping, where you like pull different rifts to you and you're suddenly in a new space. Just really feels like it changes it up for me, because that seems like such an intriguing gameplay mechanic that every time I see a trailer or preview for this game, my brain still can't process it right away. Like that when he whips out his thing and he grapples like a rift towards himself and he's suddenly in a new area, my brain still has to like catch up a little bit.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that in a game ever.
Mm-hmm. It's wild.
My thing, my main curiosity is that obviously this game is directed by Marcus Smith. He's the creative director. And two of the other games that he's been the creative director on at Insomniac have been Resistance 3 and Sunset Overdrive. Now, I don't know if the previews answered this at all, but in terms of the story, so Resistance, as much as I love Resistance 3 and Sunset Overdrive, they both follow this kind of road trip format where you're going on a journey and you meet these different groups along the way, and these groups are totally different to each other, all these different personalities. And in both of those games, that format doesn't feel as well executed as in, let's say, another game that does that, like The Last of Us. So my main curiosity about the story in this is if it follows that similar kind of mold. So I don't know if the previews sort of...
In that preview, I mean, you are playing as Rivet going to a new area to enlist the help of a character, because you need that character's help to progress further in the story. So that, I'm not going to say that that's what the whole game is like, but that trope is a little bit present in the, I've got to go here and convince this person to help me. That's at least what you're seeing in that preview.
Like the big thing in favor of the Ratchet and Clank series, and I have very limited experience. I've only played a crack in time, and 2016 I'm almost done with. So very limited experience here. That's my sort of disclaimer. But I do feel like Ratchet and Clank is one of those series that its sense of humor is very genuine. That's the sense I get from it, from my limited experience, that it's very genuine. It's not a lot of punching down or making fun of people or making other people feel bad. It's a lot of very silly wordplay, meta jokes, fourth wall breaking. Like, it's just, I'm not going to say it's good, clean fun or anything like that, right? But I think that it's comedy in a way that I think sometimes video games try to get out of, just to be like edgy and shit like that. I feel like my impression of so far from the two games I played, plus the stuff I've seen about Rift Apart, is that Ratchet and Clank has a very, what I find a very appealing style of humor that's very silly but very genuine at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why they were a great fit for Spider-Man, because with Ratchet and Clank, it's that same kind of humor, and it fits very well.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point.
So yeah, well, let's move on to the last piece of news, which is more E3 stuff. So obviously E3's different this year. It's going digital because of obvious reasons. So they've sort of detailed. Yeah.
I have. Can someone fill me in? I've missed it. I don't know.
Mitch will fill you in later. It'd be too much to tell you about right now. It would go on. Like
okay.
I don't know. What have you been playing segment or something?
Cool.
Okay, cool. But no, they've outlined how they're going to do the digital thing. So basically, they're going to have virtual booths. So like they're going to have a portal, and you can go into these different booths and check out publishers and their games and that kind of thing. They're going to have forums. And here's where it gets interesting. They're going to have lounges where you can hang out with other attendees. So there's not a lot of description for this, but the way that it presents itself in my mind is that it's kind of like a PlayStation Home kind of thing, where you have an avatar and you're walking around this kind of hub.
I think what this sounds like, and I'd say it wouldn't be surprised at all, is that if anyone was, I think we watched a few trailers there. DC Fandom last year back in August. It sounds incredibly similar to that, where it's essentially like it's an online portal. I'm not sure about avatars. I'm not sure how that'd fit into it. Like, I'd imagine it'd just be like a user tag, username and name tag or whatever. But essentially it'd be like you have your main portal page that's got like a live stream or multiple live streams going on at once for different shows, and you'd literally just go into whatever portal you want to, essentially.
Like a chat room in that sort of lobby area.
Yeah. I'd assume that's what it is, because like as you said, like realistically, I don't see them implementing a whole like PlayStation Home thing in like a 3D environment or something. I don't see them investing that much money into it if supposedly E3 has been bleeding money for years on end.
Yeah, and they're also real quick gonna have leaderboards and profile creation, so they really want like user interaction from this thing beyond just people watching their live streams.
I'm really excited for there to be AI virtual booth babes, for that to make a comeback. That'll be great and definitely not outdated at all.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah. So I guess does anyone have anything to say about this?
I'm just interested to see how this plays out, how this works, how much of a train wreck this is, because I can't imagine the ESA has their shit together, number one, and number two, in general, even if COVID wasn't happening, like I just can't imagine they have the resources or the wherewithal to set this up in such a way that this doesn't end up biting them in the ass somehow, because it sounds really complicated. And it's not necessarily a thing against the ESA or wanting E3 to fail or whatever, because that's definitely not it. But I just think that they maybe need to take a year or two off and reevaluate, and not just say, oh, well, we missed last year, so we have to do this year. And it's like, I just feel like that's a bad idea. And this is not going to go well. But I hope it goes well. I hope it goes great. But I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah. Again, though, I'd say like DC Fandom, like surprisingly worked fairly decently, but that was working with only one live stream going on at the same time, and they had a set schedule
and it was all owned by the same company.
Exactly. But like it seems E3 is going for that same kind of idea, where it's just like a bunch of live streams in a portal, but balancing numerous live streams or whatever at once. That seems like it's going to be a bit of a hassle, unless they're just going to have it all in the one live stream, and whichever one you want to tune in for, tune in at this time or
now,
whatever. But
here's the thing that gets me, is that for the past few years, discounting last year obviously because E3 wasn't a thing last year, obviously EA started not attending E3. And they started doing their own event across the street from E3 at the same time with blackjack and hookers. And basically, it kind of still felt like they were a part of E3. But this year, their event is not going to happen at the same time as E3. It's going to happen all the way in July, because E3 is in June, early June.
Early to mid June,
Mid-June.
Yeah. So EA Play Live event is happening July 22nd, which is quite far away from E3, and it kind of it makes me sad, because are they going to keep doing this every year? Is this the start of the end? I mean, is this another piece of the process to the end of E3?
The thing is that from their perspective, I can totally see them being, we don't want to get overshadowed by E3. Like, we want to have our own dedicated weekend or whatever just to announce all of our shit. But at the same time, what games do they have? Like, we know they've got a new Battlefield. They're going to have the same old sports games.
I'm not sure if the Need for Speed for this year was delayed till next year or not.
I think it
don't know what
was,
the
but they
status
could
of
maybe
that
still
is.
show it. And also, they'll have a new
Maybe,
Apex
but they've
Legends season, probably.
True, but it's like they've got just it's the same old games over
Yeah.
and over again. Like the reason EA Play worked adjacent to E3 was that because like no one really cared because it was just the same stuff over and over again. Like people would tune in, sure, but it's not like people had their interest retained there, and people like it's not like people were solely going to E3 or that area just for EA.
Yeah, and I'd like
yeah.
If you bring up an interesting point as well, because if I could kind of step into their mindset and imagine why they've made this decision, now that I think about it, a reason that they probably had it still at the same time as E3 was so that for people traveling for E3, they could just walk across the street and attend their event, and they could get a whole lot more people to attend their thing that way.
But the issue is that, you know, like, I mean, I'm sure there'd be some people out there who just go wild for, you know, a whole weekend of EA news because they love all their big franchises. But like, I don't think I know a single person who is like, you know, is a loyal, like outside of like maybe like, you know, Battlefields and your Star Wars. I can't think of a single person who is legitimately excited for an EA event.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're the worst. They're the worst conference every E3, by far.
Yeah. I mean, thank God we don't have an Activision conference. That'd just be all Call of Duty.
Yeah, that'd be horrible.
Yeah, Activision has a bad track record with conferences. What was that guy's name? Kennedy.
But I don't know. Oh wait, Jamie Kennedy. Is it
Jamie Kennedy?
Yeah.
The one
I
that
remember
showed
that.
up drunk? Yeah, no, that was terrible. Oh, that was rough.
Yeah, they're definitely not the best. I mean, I remember that year they did Anthem, but they had that weird AR thing where the Anthem character flew out of the screen.
I don't remember that.
remember that.
But that sounds kind of cool. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it was for a gimmick, but it was just a sec, like for a couple seconds. It was like, oh, okay, sure. But yeah, that it kind of feels like the decline, and they've still got their like loyal companies that are still attending E3 and supporting it, but it feels like every year another one drops off.
Told you, all these companies are bigger than E3. E3 is a product of the 90s. It's just, I told you it's gonna die out slowly.
Makes me sad.
It's as long as we can, like, I mean, I thought the same thing I was with definitely on James' boat last year more so, where I'm like, you know, E3, like, I really hope E3 doesn't die, but we've had, you know, like our state of plays and our Xbox conferences and whatnot, like they've been, you know, like they haven't been the same as like, you know, everyone on stage and in the crowd for E3, but they've been like fairly decent supplements. Like especially like when we can all get on the reaction and watch the live stream together. Like that's something.
It's you know it's akin to like instead of having a nice glass of orange juice, you're having a vitamin C supplement. That's exactly what it's like.
Sure.
It feels in keeping with the direction that the industry has been heading for many years. Because Dory and Alex, I don't know if you guys remember way back when on the Game Informer podcast, when Andy McNamara was on there, sometimes he'd tell old industry stories about like these press events where there was like a party and they get all these journalists on a bus and take them out to do paintball.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I like that stuff. I love those stories because it just makes me think the industry used to be fucking nuts.
Yeah, they used to really go. The industry was very big on gimmicks. It feels like they really wanted to make every single thing that they presented to you an experience. Even if it meant like, oh, we're going to show you our first-person shooter, so let's take all these journalists on a bus in the middle of nowhere and make them play paintball together.
You know, I know I'm going to sound like an old fogey here, but like the game industry has really become corporatized in the last like maybe 15 years or so, and like I think that's definitely a part of the reason why like you had a lot of these companies, especially in the 80s, 90s, maybe even early 2000s or so. where it was just a small group of people who were huge nerds and had no idea how to do PR and marketing or anything of that nature. And for better or for worse, right? But that certainly gave it a more like earnest feeling, a more, it left you with more interesting gimmicks, more risks that corporations just won't take, or like more corporatized workplaces won't take. I mean, when I think about just like all the wild shit that happened on G4, like that was such a representation of like where the game industry was in some ways. And, like, their weird experimentation.
But that's the thing though. Like that's how it was back then. We only way we got our gaming news was through like a magazine or forums or something. Like social media has completely changed the whole industry. Like it has got more corporate, but it has changed because of social media.
As soon as digital storefronts became like a mainstay for video game consoles, that's when the shift started to happen.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's my point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I don't mind if E3 goes away. I just need something to replace it that's contained in 1 week.
Yeah.
Not over a span of 3 months.
I
don't care if they change the name. I just want something in 1 week to look forward to.
Yeah.
That's why Summer Games Fest or whatever they had last year, we had like 2 Summer Games Fest or some like variation of 2, like 2 of them going on at the same time, and honestly, the only actual announcement I remember being excited for from that like period was Crash Bandicoot 4. But that didn't have to be announced in, Summer Games Fest. That just could have been like just a random announcement on any day of the week.
So,
like it.
The whole festival was just like, it was like a trailer and then a dev discussion for an hour. And
but even then, it was like, despite all the advertising they did, it just wasn't contained enough, as you mentioned earlier, because with it being spread across numerous weeks and months, like, people just lost interest after a while, and it became, because the thing about E3 is that like it's a bunch of big news and announcements happening one right after the other. Like the excitement just builds and builds and builds.
Right.
But Summer Games Fest like fundamentally failed because even though they went and said, like, hey, we're gonna have a piece of news every day, a lot of the time it was just like really like menial, like
a new skating in Among Us.
Yeah, something like that. Like it's really just banal shit.
Like this could have been a Twitter post.
Yeah,
literally. I mean, oftentimes it literally was just a Twitter post, and it's just like, this isn't a Summer Games Fest. This is just the regular news cycle.
Yeah,
right.
It is boring.
Yeah.
So, just to sum up, bring back the old game industry. Bring back E3.
Yes.
Bring back how it used to be. Right. Well, let's move right on to the last segment of the day. This is the game. We do one of these every week. This week it's not a game. It's a quiz.
Quiz show.
Yeah. So it's Seb, what kind of quiz is this?
This is a Resident Evil quiz. There's 15 questions. It's true or false, so there's no multiple choice or fill in the blank. Nothing. That would take 5 hours. So everybody has a 50-50 chance of getting it if they don't know. I made this intentionally challenging, not like unreasonably, but there's definitely some like, you gotta be a fan to know these. So I'm curious how you guys do.
I don't believe that this is a Resident Evil quiz unless you do the announcer voice and then say the word quiz right after. So
Resident Evil quiz.
Okay, good enough.
It's like Resident Evil's version of Typing of the Dead.
Okay. All right. So number 1, the T in T virus stands for terror virus. True or false?
Do we just say it all at once, or?
Just do one at a time. So Alex goes first. We'll just go in order of the Discord.
I'm gonna say false.
False. Okay. Dory?
It's Resident Evil. That's stupid enough to be true. True.
Okay.
Feels like a trick question. I'm gonna say false.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go for false as well.
That's fine. Me against the world. Nothing new.
Everybody was right except Dory.
Yeah.
It stands for tyrant virus.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right, Tyrant. Oh,
That's so much better.
Yeah.
All right,
It sounds,
I'm keeping
sounds
track.
more dumb, but also so much cooler. Yeah, yeah.
So number 2, Albert Wesker infected the Spencer Mansion with the T virus in order to test his bioweapons against stars. True or false?
True.
True. Okay.
yes, that is true.
Okay.
Okay, well, Dory seems confident, and Alex hasn't steered me wrong yet, so I want to go true once again.
I'm also gonna go true. But I'm a bit iffy on some of the details there, but I'm gonna go for true.
You're all wrong. It's false.
Oh,
What?
I knew it.
But it was
Mitch,
so
did you do
specific.
Alex, why could you do this to me?
James,
Oh, come on.
James
I was bound
Marcus.
to let you down.
Quick
I
story.
knew it was James Marcus. Yeah.
James Marcus
Yeah.
did it because he got revenge on Birkin and Wesker. Wesker he was working for Umbrella, but he wasn't really working for Umbrella. He was like more of a serving himself kind of thing.
Resident Evil is
but
so
the-
stupid.
The combat.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I knew the combat data stuff. That was right.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure
Yes.
about Albert Wesker. But yeah,
That's why I
that
did
makes
it.
sense.
I knew it was gonna trick
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
trick
got
me.
that one. All right, number 3. As of today, Resident Evil 5 is the highest selling game in the series with 13 million copies. Alex,
That's false.
okay.
I think I literally watched Blake Hester's video from Game Informer about the series, and he talked about the best selling. And I don't think that's true. Yeah, that's not true. That's false.
I feel like it makes sense. All right, hear me out. Resident Evil 4 is incredibly critically acclaimed. So it makes sense that people would blindly pre-order the next game in the series, and then after that wasn't good, they wouldn't do that with Resident Evil 6. So I'm going to say on those factors that it's true.
Mitch.
I'm gonna go for false. That's a bold strategy, James. We'll see how it works out for you.
James, the only one that got it right.
Yes!
Resident
Shit,
Evil 5
really?
Resident Evil 5 is the
No!
highest selling game.
Oh,
thought it was
fuck me. I'm
6.
done.
6 is second. Unless
Oh,
it changed
6?
also. 6 is the second highest.
I
But
hate,
Resident Evil
I
5
hate
is the
this
highest.
world. I hate this fucking world.
I should have known better. Even I played Resident
It's
Evil.
Oh my
5.
god,
It sold
James.
13 million copies. It was the
God
highest
damn
selling
it.
game.
Brilliant.
It was the highest selling game Capcom ever did until Monster Hunter World came out.
Oh my
I
god.
thought that was 6.
No, it's
Oh,
5.
no.
Unless I could be wrong, but I'm pretty. I looked it up. I'm pretty sure it's 5. I'm pretty
Then
certain.
Mitch wants a fact check on that.
Yeah, Mitch,
Furiously
Mitch is on
typing.
this shit. Keyboard warrior. Here we go.
Hold on.
Oh, we're relying on Mitch's internet here.
We'll come back to it later. I'll fact check it now, but we can move on to the next question.
Okay.
Okay. Mitch just doesn't want to admit he's wrong.
No, hold on. He's right. Resident Evil 5, 13 million copies. Although this
Fucking A.
article was published in 2020, so yeah, it's probably accurate.
But wait, no,
second.
never mind.
Yeah. So
This is this is my smug face.
You guys just don't want James to be right.
Yeah, pretty much.
So 5 has 13 million and 6 has 11.2 million
Yeah,
as
it's
of
close.
late October last year. So yeah, it's fairly close.
Four was ported so many times and it's so critically acclaimed. How is it not number 1?
Actually,
I
let me
just don't
see how much that has. That's
That actually does
That's
make
10.3 million.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's
I also
relative.
didn't
up there.
I also didn't take the ports into account, so I guess I got lucky.
Yeah.
If James
Yeah.
wins this,
I fucking swear to God.
he's the underdog in this. So if he,
Root for me. Want a tip? Root for me.
I'm actually rooting for James because he's the underdog.
Yeah.
So number four. Resident Evil was originally going to be a first-person shooter. True or false? Alex.
False.
I think I feel like I remember them saying that. I'm on a bad streak, but I'm going to go for my gut true.
Yeah,
I don't think I've gotten a single one right.
screw. I think it's true as well.
I'm gonna go for true. True.
Everybody's right except Alex. It's true.
Yeah! Sorry, Alex.
It was actually gonna be the first Resident Evil was gonna be a first-person shooter, and they wanted co-op, but it just didn't work out
back in the
Oh
day.
yeah, I forgot about that part.
I was trying to bank on how few first-person shooters there were when that first one came out.
Yeah,
It was still kind of like a fledgling genre at that time.
yeah.
I mean,
for
that's
sure.
probably why, they didn't end up going for it anyways, just because
Yeah.
the technology wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly, because they had the fixed cameras and everything was just a 2D
Yeah.
image as well.
Yeah.
So James is winning. He has 3 points.
Oh my fucking god.
Okay. Number 5. Jill Valentine was the youngest member of Stars at the start of the series. Alex.
I'm gonna go with false because I don't know.
Dory.
Okay, so this is a really silly thing, but we at MinMax did a script reading. I think Alex was there when we did a script reading of Resident Evil, and I remember Rebecca Chambers being the youngest, so I'm gonna say false.
Okay,
James.
that could have just been for the movie.
Could have been.
But... Oh
Yeah.
man, it was John Romero's. Was it John Romero?
Yeah, John
Yeah.
Romero's. Yeah.
I forgot about that one.
Unreleased.
That script
oh,
was
man.
wild, by the way.
It
That
was.
script is absolutely
that
wild,
was-
and I would have loved to see that movie.
That was so fun.
First of all, it's George Romero, not John Romero.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. I get the two conflated. Right. What was the question again?
Was Jill Valentine the youngest member of Stars?
and he's winning, everybody. He's winning.
Yeah, screw it. Yeah,
True?
true.
False. Okay.
I'm gonna go false for the same exact reason story
Yeah,
said.
Dory and Mitch are right.
Damn it.
Rebecca
Yeah.
Chambers is the youngest member of Stars. She was
Oh, I
18.
We're
George
catching
Romero-
up to you, James.
George Romero.
I was right too. Thank you.
George Romero
Oh, right.
heavily on the video game.
Alex, you said false or true? Sorry.
I said false.
Oh, you did say false. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad. I missed it. Gotcha. No problem. All right.
I just didn't give a cool reason.
No worries. So, you guys all mentioned the George Romero. That was one of my questions, so but I have extras in the bank, so
Gotcha.
replace,
cool.
replace that.
What was the question? I'm curious.
It was legendary zombie director George Romero was going to direct Resident Evil, and then the Capcom fired him. True or false? You guys all.
Damn it! We
said
should have
true.
kept our mouths shut.
Yeah,
Was he
you-
actually
you-
fired, or
It
did
would have
he
been a
just-
freebie.
Damn it.
he kind of got released or
fired?
fired. It's kind of like up in the air.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So number
Alright.
6. Chris Redfield is called Mr. Death by his peers because he always survives his missions. Alex.
False. I played Resident Evil 5, and I don't remember any of that.
Okay. Dory.
I don't remember that. That sounds silly enough, but I've played enough Resident Evil games, and that doesn't strike any chords to me. So I'm gonna say false as well.
I'm hoping this is where I can win some points back because I swear to God, I heard something like that in the Not a Hero DLC in 7.
Mm.
So I'm gonna
I
say.
didn't play that. Fuck.
So I'm gonna say true.
Fuck.
I am also, for the sake of being a contrarian, I'm also gonna go true.
Oh fuck y'all.
You guys are wrong. It's false. Dory and Alex got it right.
Oh thank
Hey, how
God.
could you do this?
Mr. Death is Hunk, which
Oh.
is
Oh.
That's
the
him.
soldier from Resident Evil
That's
2. He gets the
Mm.
virus. Yeah.
I
Right.
hate
him.
that
That's
DLC.
him.
I'm losing my lead. Oh no.
Alex has 3. Dory has 3. And James has 3.
Oh.
And Mitch has 3. You're all tied.
Wow.
Okay, cool.
Number 7. Claire Redfield was originally supposed to be a college student named Elza Walker in Resident Evil 2. True or false? Alex.
True. Feels
I
like
think
something where they'd be obsessed with putting like high schoolers in that kind of situation.
Yeah. I that sounds vaguely familiar to me. I'm gonna say true.
Okay.
Alright, well, if I say I have no idea, but if I say true, then at least I can't lose any more points to Dory and Alex. So yeah.
True.
I'm also gonna go true because of course you had the Elza Walker skin for Resident Evil 2 and the Resident Evil 1.5 build and
Yeah,
everything
Mitch
like
knows.
that.
Yeah, it's true. So everybody got it right.
Oh,
Ah,
Cool.
we're all tied at 4. Great.
You can wear her costume in the Resident Evil 2 remake. So
Yeah.
All right. Number 8. Leon's middle name is Scott. True or false, Alex?
I know it's Leon S. Kennedy, but I don't. God.
For the longest time, I thought it was Leon F. Kennedy, and that for some reason he was related to John F. Kennedy.
I'll say true because that day is such a dork. It would fit.
It's true.
Alex, you said true, right?
Yeah, I said true. Sorry. Okay.
No problem.
I'll also say true.
I'm gonna say false because Scott is not dorky enough of a name for Leon S. Kennedy.
Everybody got it right except Mitch.
Yeah.
It's Scott.
Yeah.
All right, number
Facts
9.
are right there.
In order to contain the virus and cover it up, Umbrella nuked Raccoon City. True or false, Alex?
False.
Dory?
Some people don't think it'd be true, but it do. Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
That
Wait,
yeah.
wait, no,
Wait,
wait
repeat
a
the
second.
question. Repeat the
Wait a
question.
No takesies, backsies.
In
Wait
order
a
to
second.
in order to contain the virus and cover it up, Umbrella nuked Raccoon City.
No, that's false.
It's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late. You can't
It's
take
too
that
late.
back.
You locked in.
I'll give
I
it to
said
you.
it before. I
If you
said it
want-
No, no.
before, James.
No.
Okay.
No, you guys gotta say true or false. Don't explain why, because you're gonna let everybody else know. You don't want people to know.
I was gonna say it was true as well until you said all that. So thank you. But no,
Sorry.
Well, I mean, how's Umbrella gonna have a nuke? But also, that feels too easy as well, as someone who played Resident Evil 2 or 3.
And three.
So, yeah,
Mainly
but who
3.
remembers 3? It sucked. So I'm gonna say that's false.
Okay. Mitch?
I'm also gonna say it is false that Umbrella nuked the city. Just
Yeah.
for clarification.
You're all right. It's the U.S.
Well, hang on,
government.
Dory's not
The US
right.
government.
Hold up.
No, she changed.
I-
She changed her answer. So
I
This
changed my
is-
answer before you gave your answer.
I demand a
Wait,
recount.
I was
So-
trying to be
so-
tricky. I was trying to be tricky because in the movie, Umbrella nukes the city.
So wait,
Yeah, well, who cares about
the
the
city
movies?
does
Yeah.
get nuked,
It does get
Yes.
nuked.
Yes.
Absolutely. But it's the U.S. government.
but how
That's
do
why-
future games take place in that city at all? Do any future
They
games
don't.
take place in Raccoon City?
No, it gets wiped out, and then the future games take place in like Africa or Europe or
Gotcha.
other.
Literally as far away from Raccoon City as you could,
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
don't have to explain what the hell happened.
So the
Yeah.
word to the wise for them, they need to name it Cockroach City next time, just in case.
So everybody got that one. Number 10. Zombie dogs are codenamed hunters in the series. True or false? Zombie dogs.
I'm gonna say true.
That's
Dory?
false.
James?
False.
Mitch?
I'm also gonna go false.
Alex was wrong. It's they're called
Yeah.
Cerberus. Hunters are the big reptilian guys with the big claws.
Yeah.
Yeah. So number 11. Prior to the events of Resident Evil 7, Ethan Winters served in the BSA with Chris Redfield. True or false? Alex?
True.
Dory?
My cog wheels are spinning. I think that's false.
That's
James?
definitely false.
So
Mitch?
Ethan Winters served in the BSAA. That was the question.
Yeah.
Ethan's
True or
too
false?
stupid. To...
False. False.
Alex was wrong again. It was
Yeah, that's
he's
right.
just the guy. He was just the guy.
I just
He
watched
got,
a video.
he got military training though.
Yeah, I
He
was
got
gonna say,
military
I
training.
Yeah,
just
but he wasn't
watched-
the BSA.
No,
I
he
just
don't.
watched a video where he was reloading the gun and like in 7 was like disregarding the clip completely, and then
Yeah.
in 8 he actually like keeps the clip if there's still bullets in it, and he mentions in a throwaway line that he got like military training.
Seb said prior to Resident Evil 7.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Which
I
is
thought you
the
said
tricky thing.
village. But
That
yeah,
was the
no,
tricky
okay.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 12, which I can't do because you guys said it. So, number 12. This one's going to be hard, I think. In Code Veronica, Claire is
Huh.
captured by Umbrella and sent to Sheena Island where she meets Steve Burnside. True or false?
What was the island name again? Sorry.
Sheena Island.
False.
He asked me why he's googling it.
I
False.
never played Code Veronica.
Yeah, I'll say
I
false.
have no idea. That sounds really dumb and Resident Evil to me. So true.
Hold on.
Ah,
Dory, you said true?
Yeah, I said true. That sounds
Okay.
dumb and Resident Evil as hell.
I'm also gonna say true, just so I can stay up on Dory.
Great.
The island is the only thing I'm not 100% on, but yeah, I'm gonna say true.
It's false. Alex is the only one that got it right.
Oh,
Sheena Island is the Resident Evil survivor.
I knew it. I knew it. I watched a video earlier this week on it. Son of a
Code
bitch.
Veronica is called Rockford Island. That was the tricky part.
Yes. I watched a Survivor thing earlier the week that literally said people
Yeah.
always get confused between Sheena and
Yeah.
Rockford. Oh,
Yeah, and even though
Where-
Survivor is a garbage game, it's canon. It's mentioned in Resident Evil 0. So.
yeah.
There's
where
canon.
are we? Where are we in the rankings now?
Oh, I gotta count. So we'll do it at the end because we're at
Okay.
We're at 13. So.
Yep.
So
Just do an extra bonus one so we can get up points as well.
yeah, if we're tied. I got a couple. Number 13. One of the most famous files, The Keeper's Diary, which contains the famous quote, "For itchy tasty," is found in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. True or false?
What itch? Did you say for itchy tasty?
Yes. It's a very famous line in Resident Evil.
You said it's in Resident Evil 3. Nemesis.
Yes. True or false? Is it in Resident Evil 3? The Keeper's Diary.
The original or the remake?
The original.
I mean, I have no idea, so I will say false.
Or it's the most famous file in Resident Evil, probably, for fans.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole book called Itchy and Tasty. Oh shit. I don't know. I'm gonna say. Crap. I'm gonna say false. I think it's in a different game.
I'm also gonna say
Same.
false.
Mitch.
I absolutely know this one. It is false, although I really hope I don't get it wrong.
You all got it right. Keeper's
Yay.
Diary is in Resident Evil 1. It's a very famous
Wait,
quote.
I knew it. It's in Resident Evil
Yes.
1. Okay.
It's the one where the zombie comes out of the closet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 14.
Aw.
In Resident Evil
Gorgeous
2, if you click on Wesker Starr's desk 50 times, you will find a film that turns into a picture of Rebecca Chambers in a basketball shorts.
Is this the original?
The original. True or false?
That sounds really 90s, so true.
Dory.
God, I don't want this to be true. But Japanese men developing video games in the 90s and 2000s were horny as hell. In ways they
They
probably
still
shouldn't
are.
have been. Yeah,
Oh.
still are. I hate this, but it's probably true.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard something about this, so I'm gonna go true.
True.
It is true. Yes.
50
True.
times. Who the fuck would click it 50
There's
times?
a picture of Rebecca Chambers in basketball shorts. If you on the Western
Although-
desk for some reason.
Because in the remake, it's you don't have to click on it 50 times. You just have to get a certain key or whatever and unlock it in the remake. Like you can still get the film. You just have to go through a couple of hoops. Yeah.
Number
Couple
15.
of hoops.
Oh,
The
shut
last
up.
question. From Claire's outfit in Resident Evil 2 and Code Veronica and Billy's tattoo in Resident Evil 0, there are many references in the Resident Evil series to this famous band, Led Zeppelin. True or false?
False.
Oh shit.
Dory.
I was wondering, okay, why is it a big deal that she's wearing basketball shorts? But I just looked up the pictures, and it's a big deal that she's in basketball shorts. Anyway,
At least
Okay,
she was
one more
18.
time.
At least she was 18. Like,
At
this is not that creepy.
Yeah.
Could be
From-
worse, but
It's still creepy. Yeah.
yeah,
still
yeah.
bad. Still bad. Anyway,
So the statement was from Claire's outfit in Resident Evil 2 and Code Veronica and Billy's tattoo in Resident Evil 0. There are many references in the Resident Evil series to the famous band Led Zeppelin. True or false?
I don't know Resident Evil 0.
Well, I said Code Veronica and 2 as well. So.
Yeah. I haven't played Code Veronica. I've only played 2. And do you mean the original or the remake or?
Original. There's only one Code Veronica.
Well, I thought
Or
you said
X.
Resident Evil 2 as well.
Yeah, both.
Okay.
Both.
Okay. Yeah. It's been a long time since I played RE2. I'm gonna say true. Sure, whatever. I don't have no idea.
I was really hoping Dory would say false because I'm pretty sure this is true. So I'm gonna go true also.
Mitch?
I'm gonna go false. I don't think it was Led Zeppelin.
Alex and Mitch got it right. It's
Damn
Queen.
it.
Yes.
Oh, what?
Fuck.
There's tons
Okay,
of Queen
hang on.
references. Billy's
There is-
tattoo and Claire's jackets have Made in Heaven. Like,
Yeah.
Yes,
the
yes.
Listen, things like
I swear there's a game out there somewhere that has the Led Zeppelin symbols in it.
there is, but there's tons of Queen references in basically every Resident Evil game. So it's most known for Queen.
Right.
Mamma mia, mamma mia.
Yeah. So let me count the number. Alice got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. James has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
What?
Mitch has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Everybody's tied so far.
Oh my
So,
god! Please don't tell. Please don't
Dory
tell me.
has
Please tell me
1,
Dory is less than
2,
10.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Everybody's
Oh
everybody's
my
tied.
god! Thank
Okay,
God.
but hang on. I claim the moral victory here because Dory
Oh, fuck
changed
off.
her answer.
Fuck off! Fuck off! I realized my mistake, and I.
Do you
changed my
realize
answer
it
before you
too
did
late? You
yours.
locked in that answer.
No, I did not. It was a soft one.
Do we have
It-
like a tiebreaker question or something, or?
You want to do a tiebreaker or you want?
Yeah,
to drag
should we do
out?
a tiebreaker where we all just
possible.
buzz in?
Yep. First one to. Oh,
This
maybe
one's
not
gonna be
first one. But...
Whoever gets this one right gets it. It's just me filling the blank.
Okay.
Should we buzz in by saying our names?
The famous song played on the piano in Resident Evil 1 is called.
Wait. The famous what?
The famous song that's very famous, like historically, that's played on the piano in Resident Evil 1 is called.
James?
What?
Mambo
Just
number
say it.
5.
Um.
I have no idea.
It's
I have no fucking.
It's Beethoven's Third.
it's something Moonlight.
Moonlight Sonata.
Dory got it.
Yeah!
No!
Oh, damn you and your historical music knowledge, Dory. Damn
Why?
Yeah,
Dory
that's
wins.
right. Eat my fucking dust, James. Resident Evil 3 is a good game, you piece of shit.
So from now on, the official word of the podcast is that Resident Evil 3 remake is a good game.
I can't
Yeah!
believe this.
you.
I have been vindicated on this day.
Historical.
This is outrageous. It's unfair. Okay.
Oh my God.
That was fun.
We've gotta end this podcast.
We really do.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
was good.
thanks so much for joining us, Alex.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me.
Do you have anything that you want to plug? Where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me on Twitter at clobberintime, THYME, spelled like the herb. So you can see me do some halfway decent graphic design stuff, or listen to me complain about wrestling.
I would argue it's far more than halfway decent, good sir.
I appreciate it.
As for us, we've got exciting stuff coming up this week. Mitch has a new show premiering at some point in the next week after this podcast goes up.
Yes. Finally.
Yes, finally. I'm
Yes.
very sorry that it's taken me so long to edit it.
No, it's not even that. We've just had to push it back. It was it was originally supposed to be for January and February, but then it got pushed to March and also got pushed to April. Now it's releasing in May. So it's a long time coming.
But it's finally here. Yeah. So if you enjoyed this, subscribe on YouTube, hit that like button. That really helps us out a lot. Subscribe to the podcast feed on your podcast apps if you listen to the audio version of this, and give us a rating if you can, if that's a thing you can do. So with all that said and done, thank you for joining us on this super long episode of the PSPremiere Podcast. Goodbye.
Another one. Wave, smile and wave, boys, smile and wave.
That quiz segment went really well. We should do like a PlayStation one or something.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was very fun.
I was curious how it was gonna go.
I liked it a lot right up until the point that Dory won.
I can't believe we all tied. I absolutely expected you to say 1, 2, 3. Oh shit, she has 9. Oh wow.